Okay. Ahoy hoy, I'm Planarwalk, and welcome to a discussion with Mischa Popoff, and it is about whether or not Jesus was gay. So let me switch over to the proper window here. Okay, so welcome, introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mischa Popoff. I grew up in Saskatchewan in Canada, and I now live down in Texas with my wife and 3 kids. And I do writing and public speaking down here.
Okay. So, one of the questions that probably most people have is a lot of people probably wonder if this is a joke. And as you'll explain, it's not a joke. There are people that think that Jesus was gay. Like, I used to think that it was a meme. I used to think that people were just going, oh, you know, he hung out with a whole lot of dudes and therefore he was gay. But I'm surprised that there are actually people taking it seriously. So, and you say that there's a bit of evidence that people are saying to, citing to say, yes, he was gay. So do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah. Well, this began, I was researching the issue of gay marriage. A lot of people think Pope Francis might be gearing up to accept gay marriage or something to that effect. There'll be some sort of middle ground established between the Catholic Church and the LGBTQ movement. And then, I ran across this, and it's one of those things. It's like an undercurrent or like an underground movement, but it's really gaining traction. And the most astonishing part is, of course, that it's got an academic foothold now. So you might know things like gay marriage, transgendered bathrooms. These things sort of floated around in years past, but it wasn't until they got a toehold in the world of academia, and I think it goes from academia to the media, like mainstream media, and also the popular culture, like television shows. And then from there it goes to politicians. Politicians are lazy. They're not, none of our politicians are leaders. So they wait for that, for the world of academia and the pop culture to kind of push them along. So all they have to do is ride the crest of the wave. So in any case, here we are looking at gay Jesus, and sure enough, there's a strong media movement. And the first example here is a course in Swarthmore, a private college outside of Philadelphia. Certainly not, a left-leaning college like, I don't know, say Berkeley or UCLA in California. I don't know what the equivalents are over across the pond, but you know what I'm saying. This Swarthmore College is a place that Christians might send their kids. It's not a Christian college. We'll get to that in a sec. There are some Christian colleges on this bandwagon, believe it or not. But here we go. It's called Queering God, Feminist and Queer Theology, a class that seeks to stretch the limits of gendering and sexing the divine. So, of course, they're asking the question, is God a woman or a man? But that course, when you look into it, gets into the issue of gay Jesus. Now, again, that's a secular college, and I don't want my first answer here to take up a long time, so I'm just going to jump right to the second one. The second example is a real shocker because it's at a Christian college, College of the Holy Cross, by a professor whose name is hard to pronounce, Dr. Tatsyong Benny Liu. And he claims not only was Jesus gay, but he was a drag king who had queer desires, and he goes so far as to claim that it's an open question whether Jesus was even a biological male, which of course contradicts his contention, both of his contentions, that Jesus was a drag queen or drag king, as the case may be. I mean, if Jesus isn't even a man, then he's not really a drag queen when he dresses up as a man. Sure. I mean, it's really hard to follow you. And then, of course, yes, if he's actually a woman and he's having sex with men, then he's not gay. In any case, this professor at a Christian college, it's a private college. You can spend a lot of money sending your kids there. Dr. Benny Liu, he throws all three up in the air. Was Jesus transgendered? Was he really a woman? And was he gay? And there you go. That's a credit course you can take at an American college.
Okay.
There are more examples. Like I say, I don't want to soak up the whole intro of the show here, Nick.
So, what I'm actually wondering, because I believe that there's some evidence in the Bible, like I can't remember exactly what it was that was mentioned, because there was the point that I brought up earlier, how he generally hang out with guys, and then there's like someone said about him, he hung out with dudes and hookers or something like that. And then there was something to do with a loincloth, I think.
Yes, yeah. So that takes us to the night Jesus was arrested in the Garden of Gethsemane. So as we know, the story goes, he was praying in the Garden of Gethsemane because he knows what's going to happen to him. And he has two of his disciples waiting for him, and they end up falling asleep, but that's sort of beside the point. In any case, they come to arrest him. Judas betrays him and kisses him on the cheek so the Romans know which one is Jesus. They arrest Jesus, and at that point, I believe it's in the book of Mark, I believe, I'm just trying to pull it up here, but it is in the Gospels, that at that point when Jesus is arrested, a young man, who we don't find the name out of, he is standing there with only a loincloth, and the guards try to seize him. His loincloth gets ripped off and he runs off naked. So that right there is enough for the gay Jesus activists to say, well, look, it's right there in the Bible. Jesus was obviously having sex with this individual. So now just follow for 1 second. Even if you want to say Jesus wasn't God, that he was just like a really smart guy, as a lot of people say, that he was just a prophet, say like the Muslims say. The Muslims don't believe Jesus was the Son of God. Okay, so he's just a man, but he knows he's going to be executed. So is that what's on your mind the night before your execution when you're praying, that you think, well, I'll have sex one more time before I go off into the wild blue yonder? It really doesn't make sense. Plus, he's got two of his disciples waiting outside for them. Now, I guess the gay Jesus activists would say, well, they're gay too, so they're willing to sort of stand on guard outside the garden while Jesus has sex one more time with this unidentified young man. But that doesn't make sense either. If he's having sex, well, wouldn't they be offended that he's not having sex with them, I guess, on his last night here on earth? Now, then I guess someone might really hypothesize, well, Jesus doesn't even know he's about to be arrested. He doesn't know he's about to be executed. He doesn't know this is his last night on earth. This is just a night of frolicking and excess. And then they wrote the story later to make it sound like Jesus was this noble guy. Well, then the last question that gets begged, if that's the case, Nick, is, well, why did the people faking the story, trying to make Jesus look noble and godly, why did they put this little tidbit in about this unidentified young man running off naked after his loincloth was ripped off? That just doesn't seem to make sense. If you want to make up the story, as long as you're making it up, I mean, make it up ironclad and make it up so that your hero is indeed a hero, and there's no doubt as to his complete abstinence while here on earth, his complete abstinence from sex, whether with women or men. So yeah, the young individual is clearly someone who adored Jesus. And in those days, having clothes was kind of like having a car. I mean, it's hard to believe, but we know when Jesus is crucified, the Romans are casting lots for his clothes at the foot of the cross. Because, they don't know better, right? And Jesus says, forgive them, Lord, they know not what they do. A lot of people, by the way, misinterpret that, thinking that Jesus forgave everyone that day. He forgave the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the Jewish leaders who put him on the cross. But no. he's very specific. He forgives those Romans because they're just stupid Romans. But the point is they're gambling for his clothes. I mean, who would do that, you know? But in those days, any type of cloth was valued. I mean, even up to Victorian times, pawn shops used to take clothing in. But, you know, before the Industrial Revolution, actually, really. So it's not Victorian. It would probably be Elizabethan era. Pawn shops still took clothing because any kind of woven fabric had value. Now it doesn't. We just take clothing for granted.
I mean, I've got I've got quite a bit of clothing, and sometimes I'll, you know, take it to to one of them places where you can just drop it off, and you know, less fortunate people can have it.
Yeah, it's a giveaway. It's goodwill, as they say. But I mean, even up until recent history, you know, 400 or 500 years ago, but certainly in Jesus' time, clothing, poor people didn't have clothes sometimes. You know, they would cover themselves with whatever rags they could get their hands on. So the point is, this unidentified young man is poor. That's all we know about him. He's poor, and what little he had was torn off him so he could escape without being arrested. And he runs off into the night. Yeah.
So, I guess when it comes to this, one of the big questions I have is, what does it matter? What does it matter whether Jesus was gay? You know, I can guarantee you that different people have different ideas of what the Bible is about. You know, you have your own idea of what the Bible says. I know people that will definitely have different interpretations to you about what the Bible says, and then there are people that are really fundamentalist about the Bible and will take everything literally, and that will be completely different to another person's interpretation of the Bible. And then you've got people, you know, Mormons and even Jehovah's Witnesses sometimes have their own idea of what the Bible says. So if there are these people that claim that Jesus was gay, how does that matter differently to a different, how is that any different to just being another sect of Christianity?
Yeah, if that's what it was, that would be fine. I mean, I would totally disagree with anyone who made the argument, as indeed I do in this article, and as I'm doing here. But that's not all that it is. As I say in the article, they're trying to take our king for themselves, just kind of like they took the rainbow for the gay movement. So this is a cautionary tale to Christians, and as I mentioned, you know, Pope Francis himself is sort of holding out an olive branch to the gay community. And by the way, all gay people are welcome to come to church. I mean, all sinners, we're all sinners, and they should come to church. And I've said in other interviews, I would take them to church. If they wanted to come with me, I'll take them. But they need to hear the truth. In any case, so what this is sort of it's like a Hail Mary pass. Now, I know you guys play a different type of football over there, but here in the dying seconds of a game, when a team is down but they have the ball, if nothing else, the quarterback will just throw the ball into the end zone and just hope it's like a 50-50 toss-up, right? Either his guy is going to catch it or the other team is going to intercept it. And that's what I think this is. They've been chiseling away at the Christian church through gay marriage, through ordaining gay priests. A lot of churches will ordain gay men and lesbian women, but they still don't have the mantle that they're looking for. And so this is, and again, that would be fine. I mean, in sort of a sportsman-like way, I could say, okay, guys, have at her, take your best shot at us with your whole gay Jesus thing. But this is a cautionary tale, Nick, to Christians in the church who are maybe thinking, you know, I guess we've been a little hard on the gays. And probably we have been in decades past, and certainly in centuries past. It's time to laxen the requirements for being a good Christian. And they need to realize that in so doing, you're not just going to have gay people in your church, as I'm sure you have other sinners. Maybe there's a bank robber in your church. You know, he's looking for redemption or salvation. There's probably, hopefully, there are pimps and prostitutes. I mean, just take all the people Jesus hung out with. You know, the scum of the earth. Yes, they should all come to church, but we don't take them on their terms. We don't tell the prostitute, yeah, whatever you do for a living, that's fine. So my position is when they come to church, and they should, they need to hear the truth, and the truth is they're sinning. But meanwhile, they've got this, as I say, this Hail Mary pass, this strategy worked out with the academic world, and I believe you're soon going to see it in the popular culture, that, hey, thanks for letting me into your church. By the way, you know that guy up there on the cross? Yeah, he's gay. He's like me. He's gay. So how dare you tell me I can't be gay? How dare you tell me being gay is a sin? And it is a sin. I have nothing against gay people. I've been called homophobic. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. But they just need to hear the truth, especially when they come to a Christian church.
Well, my position on it would be, like, I don't believe in Jesus. Obviously, I'm an atheist. But, you know, if someone wants to believe that Jesus was gay, I don't see any problem with that. It's like if a Muslim wants to believe that Muhammad if a Muslim wants to believe that Muhammad was gay, then I say let him. You know, a whole lot of Muslims would get offended by that, but it's someone, you know, if there's this Muslim that believes in Muhammad but is gay and sort of wants someone to sort of talk to, just say, that was gay, and so the first person that comes to mind is their prophet Muhammad, then, you know, I don't see any problem with them seeing Muhammad as gay, just like I don't have any problem with gay people seeing Jesus as gay. Now, obviously, there will be the debate of what evidence is there to back up the fact about Jesus' sexuality or lack thereof. And yeah, there will be a discussion about that, but when it comes to personal beliefs, I don't see any problem with people saying, well, I believe that Jesus is gay.
Well, one technical difference is we know Muhammad had sex, and we know he had sex outside of marriage. I mean, I don't think he married Aisha until after he had sex with her as a prepubescent girl. So he's sort of already in the mix, if you will. Although, again, like you said, that would certainly upset a lot of Muslims. Yeah. But what we have in Jesus, and remember, we have non-Christian accounts of him that confirm what the disciples all said in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. We have Jewish and Roman accounts that say, yeah, he was celibate his whole life. So you're really undermining the core of what Jesus is. But with that said, that's just a technical point. Let's go back to what you're saying. I mean, really, if someone wants to believe that, the gay historians do this a lot. They go through history and they'll say, yeah, you know what? Napoleon was gay. Well, no, he wasn't. Napoleon was the furthest thing from gay. He was a womanizer. But they do that. People who can't speak for themselves anymore, whose immediate friends and relatives are all dead and buried, and they try to sort of resurrect them as a gay person to advance the gay cause. And so Jesus, as I said, is the Hail Mary pass. They're done with presidents and prime ministers. And by the way, yes, as you probably know, on that note, there's been a lot of arguments that a lot of British prime ministers were gay, closeted gay. In any case, yeah, they're really going for the gusto here. And again, so let's just say academically, that's fine. We can't stop people from having their opinions. But Christians need to realize that as they open the door to gays, which they should do, they should invite gays into the church. But if they open that door on gay terms, thinking that, well, who are we to judge? Let's just let them into our church, and, you know, let two men hold hands in church. Let's just let them do that and not judge them. What they don't realize is that's just the start of it. That's just the toehold That's just the foot in the door, if you will, to use that metaphor.
Does-
The thin edge of the wedge. And this whole gay Jesus thing is coming. And I think most Christians would reconsider their laxity on Christian non-gay principles if they knew this.
Can I just ask you the start of what exactly? Like you said, letting
sorry?
gay people into the church would be the start of it. The start of what exactly?
No, okay, now remember, letting gay people into the church is not only fine, but it's advisable as Christians. We should let all gay people and prostitutes and yes. But some gay people. Now we were talking before we went on air about Milo Yiannopoulos. As you know, he's Jewish, but he's Catholic. So go figure that out. And he says, you guys are crazy. Gay marriage isn't for everyone. You shouldn't force it on everyone, even though he's in a gay marriage himself. And that to me seems a sane approach. And I don't even know if he still goes to church, but he'd be welcome in my church, and I hope he's welcome in whatever church he used to go to. So excluding that kind of sane approach to being gay, there are activists like these academics. And yeah, you say the start of what? Well, they want to go full bore and not just come to church on their terms and not be judged and not be told what the Bible says about gay marriage. They want to come to church and change it. They want to come to church on their terms, and we need to realize that their terms are 100% to turn the church to an instrument of the gay agenda. And they're not, they don't need 100% success. All they need is a few churches to fall in their favor, and that's going to really advance things rapidly. Sorry, go ahead.
What is the gay agenda exactly? Because I hear a lot of people say about the gay agenda, and I just don't know what it is that the gay agenda is. So,
well, the gay agenda used to be completely legitimate. And remember, I'm not gay, and I don't think people should be gay, but I'm willing to accept people the way they are. The gay agenda used to be stop beating us up. I mean, that's a solid agenda. It was kind of like Martin Luther King in the South. Stop segregating us. Stop making us drink out of separate water fountains. It's a pretty solid approach. Or you could liken it to the suffragettes movement, where women said, stop preventing us from participating in the democratic process. And in fact, the gay people draw analogies to both of those things, the feminist movement and the black rights movement. But the gay movement is no longer that. It's now, they've gained acceptance. As I described in this article, I mean, find a TV show that doesn't mention gays or have gay characters. There's one show on TV called The Big Bang Theory, which obviously alludes to the atheist creation of the universe, or the atheist beginning of the universe, I should say, obviously. And yeah, I think more than half the characters are gay, and they're actually really gay in real life. So they've achieved this level of acceptance. Okay, good for them. But now they've switched to promotion. So how do you promote gay? We're not just promoting the right to be gay. They want to bring it into schools. So I describe in my article how you might recall President Obama mentioned a few times sex education in kindergarten. And right away, people will say, well, no. He's not talking about actual sex. He's talking about what they refer to euphemistically as age-appropriate sex education. Well, I looked into this in Canada when my daughter entered high school 10 years ago. Kindergarten, when my daughter entered kindergarten. And it's pretty explicit. There are line drawings of female and male body parts. Why a kid in kindergarten needs to know what the other gender looks like is beyond me. There's descriptions of feelings. Yes, they don't actually discuss sex, either heterosexual or homosexual, but they talk about feelings. They talk about kids in kindergarten having feelings. And where does the education system have any basis for this? I mean, we survived I survived school. You survived school without this. Like, did you wander around the playground just baffled, wondering what a girl looked like below the belt? I mean, it's just, it's crazy. And what happens when you introduce this to kids is it sexualizes them. And whether they're gay or not, they're all going to be sexualized now under the banner of, non-bullying, non-homophobia, whatever they want to call it, however they want to justify it. It's sexualizing kids at an early age. And I don't think there should be any sex education until kids reach puberty. And even then, you have to admit, we somehow survived. Somehow survived decades and centuries without any sex education.
I do think that there should be a bit of sex education before kids reach puberty, because at a young age, some girls do go through their period as early as the age of 8, right? And so there should be at least some education to let them know, because not all parents will. Some parents might think, "Oh, my kid won't go through puberty until they're 14 or something," And so, it's a good idea to, tell them, okay, this is what might happen. And in my school, we're actually separated. The girls went to their own thing, because, they had to know about what a period was, and the guys, we had our own thing. I can't remember much of what. I actually think one time it was just the girls that had to go, because they, as I said, they had to know what a period was, and we were stuck doing English work, but it was fun English work. And also, I'm just going to. And AB Science pointed out also sex education at an early age has been proven to reduce teen pregnancy, STDs, and at puberty it is already too late for too many people, which is a good point. But one thing that I'm just going to point out that Ragical said in the chat, since when does atheism have to do with the scientific model of the Big Bang? Atheist is not the word you're looking for, and I'm just want to correct you on that, because I do agree it's not so much the atheist model, it's more of the scientific model.
And actually, when it was first presented to the Pope back in the 50s or 60s, the Pope was elated at the time. I forget what Pope that was, but you see the scientific model prior to the advent of the Big Bang Theory, the scientific model was that the universe just always existed.
Yeah.
And so, of course, that rubbed the church the wrong way. The church said, what do you mean it always existed? God created it. There was a point in time when... So the Big Bang, actually, there was common ground there. It's since been lost because, you'll never hear Christians or creationists of any stripe talking about the Big Bang. But, there was a time when, philosophically, that was actually a step forward in uniting the disparate views on the universe. You see, if the universe always existed, it's one thing to say the universe will always exist infinitely into the future, but if the universe always existed infinitely into the past, you never arrive at the present. So scientists, yes, sorry.
I was just going to return back to the topic at hand.
So back to sex education.
Yeah. So, I do know that it has changed a lot, especially since I was in primary school. Like, I know that my sister would have been about maybe about 8 years ago at this point. She came home and said, I have a vagina. And it's, they were teaching that in school. And it's important for kids to know what they have, It's, but I think it's really hard to know where to draw the line, I think. Because obviously it's important to know your own body.
Yeah, let's agree on that. let's agree on that. But kindergarten and grade 1, 2, 3. I mean, I go into further detail here. That was 10 years ago in Canada that I came across it. And by the way, the school didn't want me to see the curriculum that they were going to present to my daughter. They played dumb. They said, sex education in kindergarten? And I said, yeah. And the reason I knew, Nick, was because I worked in talk radio up in Canada, and I had interviewed the Minister of Education in the great province of British Columbia. And now prior to this, what had happened was a couple of gay men sued the British Columbia government, saying they were homophobic. And they managed to change the entire curriculum. Now, this is before we get to sex education in kindergarten. What they managed to do is take the whole curriculum and make it gay-friendly. And so I like giving the example of math, because maybe literature, maybe biology could be more gay-friendly. I don't know. I don't think it's necessary. As I say, we produced a lot of top-notch scientists throughout the decades and centuries without a gay-friendly agenda in our school system. But in any case, they argued for this, and the example I give is math. How can math be gay-friendly? Well, it's simple. Dad brings a pie home. It has to be cut into equal portions because there's 3 kids, and Dad hands the pie to Dad to cut up. So there's your gay-friendly math problem. So they achieved this probably 15 years ago to make the curriculum gay-friendly. And then after that, it always has to go further. See, maybe we could agree on that. I would actually disagree. I just want a math problem. I don't need an agenda built into the math problem. But okay, let's just say we agreed on that. Well, it was only 5 years later they moved to sex education in kindergarten. And I described some of this in the article. I'm not sure what we can say on your show. I don't want to get you censored. But basically, the self-satisfaction, the term that starts with the letter M, that's being taught now in Canada in the early grades. By grade 6 in Canada, a kid has learned from a teacher, not from a parent. A kid has learned everything there is to know by grade 6.
What?
So that includes self-satisfying and all the things you can do besides procreational sex.
So grade 6 is
so that's where it's gone.
Age 11 to 12, right?
Yes.
Okay. One thing that I want to point out is, I mean, I was a bit slow on all that stuff, to be honest. So I didn't actually know what that was. But I sure as hell can tell you that everyone else, even though we hadn't been taught what it was, everyone else knew what it was. And you know, you can say masturbation on this show. It's fine. I don't.
Okay, good.
But you know, everyone.
Okay, but yeah,
everyone knew what it was.
Everyone knew already. Yes. Now that's a problem in itself, and that's due to the popular culture, due to the internet. I've watched my kids. They're watching kids' videos, and then, you know, down the right-hand side, there's suggested related videos. And the kid will go click on one of those and then watch that and then watch another one. And sooner or later, all of a sudden, your kid has been led off the garden path, so to speak. And there's some really questionable stuff that gets linked in a kid's world because it's somehow related to a SpongeBob video they were watching. So actually, that's probably why a lot of kids know about this. But let's say that's fine. Kids
I just
know
want
about
to
it.
bring up a point that Radical brought up, which is actually directly related. He says that kids also have internet access now, so they know more than would like to think they know. So education is required for the reasons mentioned above.
Well, no, so that's where we part ways, because I certainly knew. Look, I grew up on a farm. I knew what sex was at the age of 4. Okay, I'm not kidding, and I knew everything before I heard about it in a sex education class in grade 5, by the way, and that was like 40 years ago. But it was very limited what the sex education was. In any case, I knew everything there was to know. I'd seen farm animals. I knew what was going on in my mom and dad's bedroom. So there. But what happens when you present it as education is you're affirming it. And I never dreamt, like if I would steal, I'm serious here, Nick, if I would steal a Playboy magazine from my uncle, I never dreamt that this was a good thing. It was deviant behavior. By the way, deviant is how Milo Yiannopoulos describes the whole, being gay. He said it's not supposed to be mainstream. It's not supposed to be applauded or accepted. It's supposed to be, sort of dirty, like, cheating on your girlfriend or cheating on a spouse. It's not supposed to be accepted. Now, of course, it should be accepted enough that we don't beat up gays and fire them from jobs. Those days are long gone, as I say. That's where the gay movement made huge, noble strides, I will say. But when you get a teacher to present it, then it's legitimized as legitimate behavior. And so not only are they presenting how to masturbate before grade 6, by grade 6 they're learning things that gay men do. So by grade 3 or 4 they're learning how to masturbate, and now you're totally legitimizing it and promoting it. And one last thing on that, I don't mention this in my article, but in Canada, in British Columbia, they put out a contract to make wooden penises on a stand. And this was so a teacher could show students how to properly put a condom on a penis. Now, fortunately, all of those wooden penises were destroyed because the government somehow came to their senses. They said, okay, this is a bridge too far here. But the very fact that they did that shows you what the underlying agenda is. And so I would totally disagree with the commenter. No, the fact that kids already know doesn't mean you need to legitimize it. I mean, kids know how to steal matches and light a fire, but you don't legitimize that.
Well, I think there is, because with a lot of different people, there are stigmas around things like masturbation. And one of the things that, when I was in high school, I always felt that there was a stigma around masturbation. Now I don't feel that stigma quite as much because I've accepted that most people have masturbated. And when it comes to, and Radical is pointing out that it's they also include the dangers about it, and the dangers aren't limited to STDs. It's because we're taught in school about consent, which is a very big thing. You've got to, and that's so you've got to be. Well, I mean, you shouldn't really have to be told this. It should be naturally come to most people, but it's good to at least let people know that if someone if you don't give your consent, then and someone tries to do something, then that's that's rape. If someone tries to have sex with you and you haven't given your explicit consent, then that is rape without a doubt, and that should be and that needs to be taught. I don't know what age it should be taught at, but at least it needs to be taught at least before they start having sex. And so
yeah, there's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy in there. So you're right. Let's say the victim, whether it's male or female, needs to know, I have the right to say no, and if my assailant persists, I have the right to go and accuse them of a rape, certainly. But let's look at it from the assailant's perspective. So we've now told the assailants as well, okay, you need consent. Well, there's any number of ways to get consent. I mean, how about a few drinks? And so now he can say, what are you talking about? We always hear this with American politicians. There are a few in Virginia right now facing sexual harassment charges. And they'll always say, it was consensual. It was consensual. So now you've provided the ammunition to the assailant as well as the defense to the victim. And the assailant will always claim now it was consensual sex. I would put it to you like this, Nick. The term consensual sex didn't even exist 15 or 20 years ago. I mean, like you said, it was a given. I mean, I wouldn't walk out on the soccer pitch and kick the soccer ball to someone who's facing the other way, and then when it hits them in the side of the head, say, well, too bad. I mean, I just know that's not, I don't need anyone to teach me not to kick a soccer ball at someone who's not ready. So I yell, hey, Nick, turn around. And then I boot it at you, right? So now you're ready for it. I gave you a heads up. You don't have to teach that. Now, maybe let's say, though, that I said earlier that, yeah, there's some middle ground here, and we can agree that kindergarten is crazy. None of this should be taught in kindergarten. I would also say maybe you would agree that by grade 6, kids don't need to know everything there is to know about sex. I'd say by college, maybe. And even then, why do you have to teach them about deviant sexual activity? But let's now, if you'll allow me, let's shift to the issue of transgenderism. Now, I already used the term self-fulfilling prophecy. If you teach kids they need consent, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The assailants, the victimizers are just going to go out and create consent in their victims. But when it comes to transgenderism, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just want to say, and that is why there are a lot of laws, a lot of the time saying, getting someone drunk does not count as consent. And
sure. What about if you're the...
And in school I was taught, don't get drunk and have sex.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but what about if you're the captain of the football team and you so you're in grade 12, let's say, and you tell some girl in grade 9 or 10 that I'll be your boyfriend if you have sex with me. She says, sure. And you've got consent now. And maybe you even walk around the halls with her on your arm for a few weeks because you enjoy having sex with her, but then you dump her. I mean, that was going on when I was in high school. So consent, you're absolutely right about alcohol. And then you've got, what is that, Rohypnol, the date rape drug that Bill Cosby is accused of using. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's not consent. That's rape. But there's a myriad of ways to get consent. So I would maintain it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. What I said, Nick, when I interviewed the Minister of Education, she was saying all these things. Kids need to hear this so they're safe, so they're protected, so they can, so they'll know when someone's maybe abusing them sexually. I think most of that kids just know that. But what I said to her, Nick, was if I teach my 6-year-old son, so he would have been in grade 1 at the time, if I teach him to dismantle the lawnmower, that's an important skill maybe for a kid who's a little older to learn how to dismantle the lawnmower. Should I be surprised if I come home from work one day and I open the garage and he's dismantled the lawnmower and it's all in pieces all over my garage? I mean, I've handed him not only the how to, but I've handed him the what's the term? I've shown him it's okay to do this. Well, so not only how to do it, but yeah, go ahead. And so there's a myriad of examples like that of things. So we don't teach kids how to load a gun. Even where guns are popular. Can
I give a better example? And actually, the gun example is, I was going to go to that. So I was taught how to shoot a gun at a young age, but along with being taught how to shoot a gun, I was also told rules about a gun. So, storage, safety, do not point it at anyone who... you do not point a gun at anyone regardless of whether it's loaded or unloaded. All that kind of stuff. Now, I would... if my parents had have owned a gun, they wouldn't have come home to find me shooting holes in the walls, right? But
fair enough. Yep.
And they would when my dad did get a slug gun, he'd often let me have a go shooting a target. And I wouldn't go into his room and pulled out the gun and gone and shot it without his consent. But maybe if I hadn't been taught all these rules about gun safety, maybe I might have gone, oh, a gun, cool, let's go out and shoot it, and that could have led to bigger problems than if I hadn't been taught about all this in the first place. Because a lot of kids, they find out about all this stuff like sex. They find out about all this stuff like as masturbation, and there can be some problems with masturbation, especially with girls if they don't know how to do it properly, because there can be things that they, you can get UTIs and all that kind of stuff if you're not careful about it. And so my argument would be, it's a good idea to teach these people so that they don't, and going back to the gun analogy, so that they don't, go into the bedroom, grab the gun, and start shooting willy-nilly, because that can lead to much bigger problems down the road.
The difference here is what we're seeing with sex ed is promotion. Now, you're right, it's always presented as, well, it's a safety issue. We want kids to be safe. We don't want them to bully other kids. If they do engage in something like masturbation, we want it to be done properly. That's always what they say, but it goes so much further. As I say, it enters into promotion. So kids are being told, it's normal to have a girlfriend, and we're seeing the age of consent. I don't know what it is over there in your neck of the woods.
In New Zealand,
but in most of America, yeah, and in most of North American states, it is 16, but in Canada, it's 14, and there's a move afoot to get it lowered to 12. And so you'll learn all this, you'll learn everything by the age of 12, and then there you go. Conveniently, the law has provided this open door for you to run through and actually start engaging in it. So that, I would say, that's the crucial difference between your gun analogy, which is bang on. I mean, I wish that's what sex ed was, like warning kids. For instance, now here's another thing, anal sex. Why aren't kids told, I go into this in my article, about, even if there's no sexually transmitted disease, the medical problems arising for boys and girls from anal sex are manifold. There's, incontinence and bleeding. And I actually mention in my article a Teen Vogue article that came out last May, about 9 months ago, promoting anal sex for teenage girls, showing them how to do it, telling them not to be surprised. They actually said, don't be surprised if you see feces. They called it something else in the article. So they're really normalizing a deviant behavior for kids. And so to go back to your analogy, it would be like learning about gun safety, but then also learning how to shoot from the hip and, how to throw a penny up in the air and shoot it out. I mean, those are crazy things that a kid shouldn't even attempt with a gun. And that's what we're seeing with sex education. And again, I hope you'll agree, it's gone down to kindergarten. So it's the age factor as well as the graphic nature of it.
Well, I think that there should be some sort of really basic things taught in kindergarten. Like, I don't think that in kindergarten you should be taught how to masturbate or anything. But when you get, especially to the later years of primary school, it does become important. And when it comes to anal sex, there is somewhat of a stigma, but at the same time, it's so popular that there does need to be more taught about it. Now, I don't remember ever hearing much about anal sex, and it probably would have been a good idea to learn more about it in school so that people know what the dangers are, and that's what I would be teaching if I was teaching the class, and I wouldn't be teaching the pleasures of it. But
I guess I'd be biased for that. But
one of the things that I do need to say about is When it comes to, because you're saying about the, you're talking about sex ed, and you're saying that it's promoted instead of taught.
Yeah,
and
we're not just warning kids, we're promoting it. Yeah.
I actually disagree with that, and this is coming from personal experience, so you don't have to just take my word for it. But in high school, it wasn't so much promoted. You know, we were told there's nothing wrong with masturbation. It's you may feel as though you're doing something wrong, but it's perfectly healthy and perfectly normal. Most people do that, and you know, that it is right. It is perfectly healthy, perfectly normal. And by the time we're told that, most people in the classroom, I can guarantee you, we're already doing that anyway, right? Mm-hmm. And so, so I suppose in a way it helped maybe people that might be thinking, oh, I'm doing something terrible, might have helped them go, well, you know, it's not so bad. Everyone else does it, so there's nothing wrong with me doing it. And so I wouldn't call that promotion, but I'd rather, you know, you might call that normalization. And in a way, it's already been normalized by everyone doing it, if you get my drift. But when it But when it came to the actual act of sex, it was strongly encouraged that if you were to go ahead and have sex with someone, make sure it's someone that you trust. Make sure that it's not just a thing of the moment. Make sure that it's make sure that you actually have proper feelings for this person, rather than, you know, just. Because you only get to lose your virginity once, right? Once you've lost it, that's it. You know, you can't lose it again. So, it's a case of, it's really a case of letting people know that there's nothing wrong with masturbation. Everyone masturbates. When you do have sex, make sure it's with someone you trust. Don't just lose it in a fling, you know. And you know, make sure that when you do have sex, that it's consensual. Make sure that you do wear condoms.
Now in my article, I point out, and this drew ire from the from my gay interviewer who hung up on me over on the Non Sequitur show. I point out that here in America, the FDA does not recommend condoms for anal sex, and the reason is simple: they're not effective. They'll come off and stay inside, and they'll rip, and so that doesn't work for that. In other words, when it comes to certain types of sex, there is no such thing as safe sex. So avoiding pregnancy, well, that's easy. We mastered that one back in the 60s.
Well,
through birth control of various forms. But
one thing
when it comes to anal sex,
one thing I do have to point out with that is that there is still quite a few teen pregnancies that could be avoided if teens were taught better, because there is a correlation between the amount that someone's taught about. You know, if you're taught, oh, okay, this is all the different sorts of these are all the different sorts of contraception. You know, you've got the rod, you got the pill, you got the jab, you got condoms, and then you're told about that, and you know, you got given encouragement that if you do have sex, use them. Then, you know, there is a lower chance of there is a clear correlation between this, you know.
Yeah, and yet Planned Parenthood is aborting more babies than ever here in America. I mean, I think it's up to 230,000 a month. It's just incredible. But there's two problems with the whole safe sex thing. The first one is you can teach all you want, but the younger person is never as responsible as the adult. And so Planned Parenthood knows that if they hand out free birth control of whatever type, it often gets misused, and they've actually created a future customer who's going to bring in an unwanted fetus to abort. But that aside, let's say you're right, and it's beneficial to teach girls how to have so-called safe sex. I would go back to the gay sex. And by the way, yeah, this isn't just gay. As I mentioned, the Teen Vogue article is promoting anal sex for teenage girls. There's really no safe way to do it. I mean, you could be safer, but there's no safe way. There's no way to achieve absolute safety. You're misusing one of the persons engaged. You're misusing their orifice, and there's no way around it. I mean, incontinence and unable to withhold your bowels is an actual problem for some people who engage in too much anal sex. So again, I would come back to it. The FDA does not recommend condoms for that.
I do need to point out 82 Productions in the chat said the FDA has issues with condoms and anal due to the rapid failure of lubrication, which then leads to potential injury for the recipient.
Yes. Yeah. But that's not to say that the solution is just to use more lubricant. I mean, the FDA could just go, if it was foolproof, then they would go ahead and say that. And yet they're reticent. They don't want to be on the hook for a bunch of injuries out there. But if I could, we need to get to the transgendered issue. Let's just cap this off by saying we sort of agree that starting all of this as early as kindergarten and reaching if you will, Nick, reaching a graduate level of sex education by the grade of 6 is real. I mean, this is just crazy what we're doing. But you're making some good points, and I certainly have no problem with the whole concept of sex education.
I just want to point out what someone said in the chat, just real quickly before we change topic. He says, and the FDA doesn't recommend against them, it just doesn't endorse them.
Yes, that's right. They don't endorse them. They don't, as they do for everything else under the sun. I mean, and remember, you can still catch all manner of sexually transmitted diseases even with a condom, because a lot of the diseases surround the erogenous area. They don't have to be transmitted through bodily fluids. I mean, there's all sorts of, like herpes. A condom isn't going to protect you against herpes. Let's just say that. And yet the FDA does say, in spite of that, they do say, use a condom and cut down on your risk of STDs. They do say that. But yeah, when it comes to condoms, they do not recommend them. So that's kind of a stumbling block, I would suggest. Now, again, let's say, well, adults can do what they want. Fine. I don't know if you're 21 or maybe even if you're 18, but we're talking about kids here. And again, I would underline the Teen Vogue article. I mean, sure, I guess some teens reading Teen Vogue are 19 and 18, but some are 13 and 14. You know, and I'm sure some 11 and 12-year-olds read Teen Vogue. And remember, see, Teen Vogue isn't some teen rag. There's these magazines that little girls like that have pictures of heartthrobs in them, you know, young up-and-coming actors and singers. And they'll cut out the pictures and put them on their wall. I'm sure we're all familiar with that. But Teen Vogue is kind of like that's kind of like the New York Times of fashion and makeup and etiquette. It's sort of almost intellectual, you could say. And there they are promoting this for young girls. But we need to move to the transgendered issue. Because I think, even if I'm willing to concede that, yes, are you still there, by the way?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, good. My screen just switched. Even if I'm willing to concede, yes, there is such thing as a person born in the wrong body. And by the way, I'm not. I don't believe that. But let's say, for the sake of this discussion, I concede that. That's not what we're seeing now. Again, as early as kindergarten, kids are being told you might be in the wrong body. And kids they sort of like this. I mean, kids like to pretend they're spacemen and firemen, and even a boy will pretend he's mommy, not for any sexual reason. They're just acting out. They're playing, and then you get to the age of puberty, and you're right. Puberty can start as early as the age of 8 or 9. By the way, the youngest pregnancy in the world was age 9 in Mexico. So you're absolutely right about that. But we both know, Nick, I'm sure you'll agree, that it can be a real shocker when you reach puberty, and all of a sudden the girls you used to play with just because they were people on the playground, now they're women, they're up and coming women, and it can be really hard. It can be really disconcerting to suddenly deal with members of the opposite sex. And a lot of people have low self-esteem, and they'll just think, well, first of all, maybe I'm gay, and they're not. Maybe they are, but maybe they're not. And we're promoting that. And then the next thing is maybe I'm in the wrong body. And when you start giving hormonal therapy, I mean, it's different for every person. It can be 6 months or a year, but at some point, that person is sterile. They can't go back, even if they change their mind. And so they're giving hormonal therapy to kids. Again, and we see this in Canada, where I'm from. Kids as young as the age of 4, all they need is parental consent. And so now the whole sex education thing, now people like you should be shaking your hands like I'm doing right now and saying, okay, we've gone too far. Maybe we do need to teach kids it's okay to masturbate. Maybe at a later age they need to learn there's other types of sex besides straight heterosexual sex. Maybe. But to teach the transgendered agenda, I think to anyone, but especially to young kids, I think we're going down the road to oblivion now.
Okay, so I think there's a lot to unpack here. So
sure.
Let's rewind back about. Let's rewind to the whole idea of transgenderism and transsexualism, because the way that I see it, transgender and transsexual are two different things. And so transgender is about gender, and transsexual, I'd say, would be about changing your physical sex, right? So if you want to change your gender, you know, there's I could do this in a matter of hours. All I have to do is go to the store, buy a dress, and that's it. I'll be transgender if I start wearing that dress out in public, you know? That is transgender. Yeah. Transsexual is more of getting an actual sex change. You know, if you've got a dick, chopping it off and, you know, getting a vagina. Yeah. And the reason why this is different is because gender is more of the social construct around. So you know, it used to be that when you're a kid, if you had a dress, that wasn't seen as being girly, right? Now it is. If you're a kid in a dress, you'd be seen as being female, whether or not you are actually female. But because social norms have changed, therefore our expectations of what it is to be male and our expectations of what it is to be female have changed since way back in those days. And so and it used to be that blue was a girl's color and pink was a boy's color. And we did a 180 because of a marketing company decided, let's switch things up a bit, you know? And so now it's the opposite way around. And so there is a lot of that is very social, you know? For me, I probably wasn't the most manly kid or the most masculine kid when I was a kid, you know? To me there was something appealing about dolls, even though I was a boy, and I'd probably have preferred monster trucks or whatever. But there was still something appealing about dolls to me, and that was probably just because I saw it as just another toy. And so that's what transgender is about, feeling if you're a different gender. Do you agree with that? Just
yeah, let's go with that. I know there's a difference between gender and sex, and yeah, let's go with that. My question is, when do we present that? And now, never mind kindergarten. There are parents presenting that to kids right away, as soon as a kid can comprehend language, and the kid will fall into it. The kid will say, "Yeah, Mom, I'm a girl," or vice versa. And so now we have a couple examples here in America where, the one example is a kid that you can look up named Lactatia. Of course, lactation is when a woman exudes milk from her breasts. And this little boy, that's his stage name, Lactatia. And he's dancing around for men in gay nightclubs. So I don't know, I guess right now, by your definition, he's transgender because he hasn't changed anything. Although it does look like he's taking hormones. So I would ask you, do we include, before we go under the scalpel, before we introduce the surgeon into the mix here, I think hormonal therapy is crossing the line. Then that's like a scalpel, if you will. And hormonal therapy, as I said, you can undergo it for a little while and then it's reversible, but at some point it becomes irreversible. And that I would say is, by your definition, then that's transsexual, and you're putting a 4, 5, and 6-year-old kid down a one-way road to oblivion. Now they're going to be trapped.
Now I don't think that it should be allowed to give kids transsexual sort of things. I'd probably agree with you on the fact that when it comes to a kid, at before 18, because at the age of 18, I think then you'll be more decided of what sex you'd like to be. At the age of 18, if you still don't feel comfortable in your body, then you should be allowed to change what sex you are, right?
Yeah.
And so,
yes.
If you're 10, I don't think that you have I don't think you're developed enough to be able to make that decision. And I don't think anyone should say, "Oh, you've got to make this decision to change what sex you are on your behalf." I don't think that, whether it be your parents or whether it be a doctor, I don't think anyone should be allowed to say, "Okay, you've got to change from this sex to another sex," unless of course there is something that unless there's a complication. So, for example, if someone, I think there was an example.
Androgyny.
I think there was an example, right, where this person had to switch because there was a complication. I can't remember what it was, but they did have to switch, right? And there was no way around it. And so in that case, they switched from, I think it was from a boy to a girl. And this is one case, and that's like a case which I'll make an exception for. In that case, yes, they should have switched. But in other cases, I think that you should have to wait until you're 18. But I don't know how many people actually switch before they're 18. And if there are laws which allow it, I'd probably call for laws to be changed.
It's increasing rapidly throughout the Western world, Nick, really. By the way, I think the example you're thinking of is Dr. Money, and he pioneered sex change therapy, if you want to call it that, surgery and hormonal therapy. He pioneered that at Johns Hopkins University back in the 70s. He was fired subsequently for malpractice, but there was a case where he tried to help a little boy whose penis had been mangled in a botched circumcision, and he said to the parents, well, don't worry, we'll just raise him as a girl because gender is a social construct. And it turned out not to be the case. That boy ended up committing suicide. He was raised as a girl. When he reached the age 16, in that case, I believe it was, he volunteered to switch back, but he couldn't be a boy anymore. He was only a facsimile of a boy. And he ended up, as I say, committing suicide. Dr. Money has been, he's been forgotten because the gay transgendered movement doesn't want to remember him. But I would grant you, yeah, there are cases of androgyny, which is no sex, or hermaphrodism, which is both. Very rare. But yeah, it's those kids, I guess the parents have to decide which way to go. And those are the cases where you might do some gender reassignment or assignment. But no, this is bigger than you think. I mean, I gave the example of lactatia. There's another example here in America of a little boy. He is a boy, and his name is Jazz. And he's now reaching puberty, so he's lived his whole life as a girl, and he's a YouTube sensation as a girl. I believe he's been on network television many times, as has lactatia, by the way. And yeah, now he's getting ready to turn his male genitals into female, and he's not 18 as you were suggesting. I don't even think he's 16 yet, but he's reaching puberty, so they're starting the process. And it's going to be a long process. There'll be many YouTube videos that you can follow, and boy, talk about a self-fulfilling prophecy. I mean, these kids are stars. They're like Martin Luther King was for the Black movement. These are the heroes. And if there's validity to it, it's not being treated with any kind of medical dignity. It's being promoted as a pop cultural phenomenon. And it's bigger than you think. There's, I would say, in Canada, where I'm from, there are thousands of transgendered kids under the age of 10, thousands. And they're being misled by their parents.
I think,
and as I said, when you're that old, you don't know anything. Even if you play with dolls, well then fine, just be a boy who plays with dolls.
I think that
why?
Yeah, I think that one of the problems is that people do fail to draw the distinction of the between transgender and transsexual. So, you know, when someone says, "Oh, I'm transgender," a lot of people think, "Oh, so you've had your dick chopped off, or you've had a dick implant, or whatever it is." Whereas I think most of the time it just means, you know, I still have my old, I still have the genitals that I was born with, but I just choose to dress up differently, or I choose to act more feminine or more masculine than what people would expect of me. And I think that is perfectly fine, no matter what age you are. You know, if I have a kid and that kid wants to wear dresses, you know, I'd let them. If it's a boy and they want to wear dresses, I'd let them. If it's a girl and they want to wear dresses, I'd let them. Same with whatever they want to do. It's because there was actually a really good story recently about this kid who was a boy who wore nail polish to school, right? Or to kindergarten. And when that kid got home, they were absolutely in tears. And they were saying, "I don't want to wear nail polish anymore." And it's because they got bullied so much that they're essentially saying, "Look, I don't want to do this anymore because I got bullied." And I think there needs to be more acceptance towards people that act differently to how you'd expect them. And I just want to address a comment in the chat for a few seconds. Grimbeard says, "Wait, Planarwalk, did you just say... Yeah, wait, did Planarwalk just say, I still have the genitals I was born with? Dude, I'm so sorry, mine got bigger at puberty, and That is true. You know, they do get a lot of times they get bigger at puberty. So, sorry about that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I did want to address that issue of your genitals. Let's say you are a boy and you think you're a girl. Why would you surgically alter your genitals? That's where all of your sensation is for whatever kind of sex you're gonna have. And most transgenders who go full for the not just hormonal but surgical transition. And I have a close friend who did that. I mentioned him in my article. He's now a woman. He spent lots of money. He sold his house to do it. They have very minimized sensation. I had an operation on a hernia, and I asked the doctor, is there going to be an effect because it's right above my genitals? And he said, nah, it shouldn't affect it. And sure enough, I have diminished sensation lower down because your nerve endings all run from your brain out. They cascade out through your body. So wherever you cut, it's like damming off a stream. You've cut off the flow of sensation below that. And so when they start surgically altering people, so back to your commenter, certainly he has larger genitals than he did when he was born. Certainly. And that's because the body is saying, yes, I want more of that, right? And that's perfectly natural. And why anyone would alter that, even if they think they're in the wrong body, why they would mess with that, it just destroys sex. Let's face it.
I think it's more.
So just kind of a side note.
I think it's more, and I could be wrong on this. Like, it's very hard to judge someone who's transsexual when you're not transsexual yourself. So I wouldn't, I wouldn't say that this is how transsexuals are feeling, but this is what I'd guess that transsexuals are feeling like. I think that for a lot of it might be that, if you're transsexual, you might... Oh, you seem to be cutting out a bit. I think we've got a few. Are you alright?
Are you there?
I'm here. Yeah, you're cutting out for a bit. So what I was saying is, if you're trans...
there, I can hear you.
Okay. So yeah, what I was saying is... Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, you skipped out again.
Well, I can hear you. But yeah, so as I was saying,
there you are.
Yeah, so when it comes to transsexual people, one of the reasons that they might have to switch sex is to feel more included in society, because a guy wearing a dress probably isn't quite as accepted. And if I have a friend who's transsexual, and just say I meet a guy who used to be a girl, I probably won't judge him. I wouldn't judge him if I was if I found out that he was transsexual. But even just say I had a prejudice against transsexual people. I don't feel that there's anything wrong with him saying, "Look, I'm just a guy, right?" And we'd get along as friends, and I wouldn't think anything of it. And whereas if this guy was a girl, let's say, and still had the parts, it'd be pretty obvious that they were a girl, because girls tend to have bigger breasts, and that usually, for most people, it shows. For some people, it doesn't. But for a lot of people, it does show. So I think that there is that sort of wanting to be included in society, sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what you're saying is their mental well-being outweighed the physical need for that satisfying feeling of sex, because they are sacrificing something when they undergo surgery, it can never be as good. I mean, for instance, a woman becoming a man can't actually ejaculate, for instance. She can't. So, and then of course a man can't have babies. So it's really a facsimile. But I guess what you're saying is they have such a mental drive for this. They're willing to make that sacrifice. But now we get into the issue of, well, how much of this should be promoted and when? And I want to draw the analogy here to single motherhood. There was a time when single motherhood was frowned upon, and there was a good social reason for that. Society didn't want children born out of wedlock. But for the poor mothers whose husband ran off or who got cheated by a man who claimed he loved her and then just took off, there they were, and they had to have this child out of wedlock. And as I say, society frowned upon this. They frowned upon the mother, and the name for the child was, of course, a bastard child.
Yeah.
And this wasn't good. This was entirely negative, because society works that way. Society is like a big machine. It's difficult to fine tune it. Well, what we decided to do recently with single motherhood was to swing the pendulum in the other direction. Instead of stopping in the middle and just saying, hey, it happens, okay? Don't call that kid a bastard child, and be nice to the mom. She's doing her best. Well, now we've gone to the opposite end of the spectrum, and single moms are heroes. So you'll see single moms with 3, 4, and 5 kids with 2, 3, 4 different dads. They're heroes now. And society seems incapable of stopping in the middle, as I'm saying. And so back to transgenderism, I really have a hard time believing someone can be born in the wrong body. But again, for the sake of argument, I'm willing to accept that. Why are we applauding these young kids who are now becoming internet sensations like Jazz and Lactatia? If it's true, we should just say, okay, fine, it's true. And we should stop in the middle, not judging negatively or positively. And we seem incapable of that for some reason.
I think it is due to I think it is due to the fact that when it comes to these things, they are different, and that's why a lot of different odd stuff goes and gets a lot of media coverage. Like I remember a few years ago, there was this thing that I found, baby metal, right? And I know that there are a lot of people out there that will probably go, dude, what is this? You shouldn't be listening to this because it's from Japan, and it's heavy metal, but it's sung by three young Japanese girls, and they're about the age of...
Yeah, I have heard of that. Yeah. I've heard of that. Yeah.
And, you know, people will find issue with that because they'd say, well, it's 3 young Japanese girls and you're listening to it. But that's more of their thoughts on it. Like they'll think, oh, it's sexualizing young Japanese girls, and not really. It's just a different thing, that different type of music. It's metal, but with young Japanese girls. The fact that they think that it's sexualizing these young girls is the fact that they think that it's sexualizing young girls is more of a problem of what they think rather than a problem of what's actually going on. And I think it's I think there's also a bit of that in other kind of things. So when it coming back to the whole idea of internet stars that are transgender, we're going through a phase where transgender people are still there's still a lot of bias against transgender people and transsexual people. So
I don't think so. Really? You think there's bias? Because here you have me. I'm probably one of the, you would agree, I'm one of the more biased people against all this, and yet I would take my friend who I mentioned had a sex change. I'd take him to church. He's welcome in my home. He's been to my home only once since then, and we used to be the best of friends. We played on a soccer team together back in Canada, and he only came to visit me once, and I disagree with what he did, but I love the guy, and yeah, he won't come back. I think the bias is on his side.
I think that
maybe you're right. Maybe there's still some lingering bias.
It's hard to judge individual cases, but I think society as a whole is, especially in nations like America, where it's, there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, get transgender people out of the bathroom," and all that kind of thing. And I do have a solution for that, by the way. It's called unisex bathrooms, and they're great. I'd actually prefer unisex bathrooms myself. But
well, yeah,
that's a whole nother issue.
Well, no, I raised that issue with some gay people, and I likened it to Roman times. In Roman times, public latrines were all unisex. And until the post-war period in Europe, there was a lot of public latrines. They were just big, open places. There weren't men's and women's, and that's what I said. In all seriousness, I wasn't being facetious. I said, I guess we should go back to that, or maybe we'll have men's and women's, and then, as you say, the unisex or the co-ed. So you'll have 3 bathrooms every year, and you're absolutely right. Well, they really took umbrage to that, and you need to know this. They're sticking to their guns. They don't want a 3rd bathroom. They want 2 bathrooms, and they want the right for a 40-year-old man wearing a dress to go in, and not just bathrooms, but change rooms and showers. That's the level of their thinking on it. They want, like I say, a 40, 50-year-old man to go in there with young girls. And there was a case here of a girl in a high school who says she's a boy, and she fought for the right to change for gym class. And the phys ed teacher at the school, he put his foot down. He said, "Okay, fine, you're a boy. You can play on the boys' teams, but you're not changing with the boys." And they fired him. And he had done everything else that she wanted. He just said, "You're not showering and changing with the boys," because he knew it wouldn't be good for his boys. You're not gonna perform as a boy athletically if you've just watched a woman undress in front of you. I mean, it'll be highly distractive. You might recall the first Rocky movie. Sylvester Stallone, he refuses to have sex with his girlfriend the night before the fight. She offers it to him, and he says, "No, I've got to stay focused." So yeah, I mean, this phys ed teacher, it wasn't even a sexual thing. It wasn't a homophobic thing. He just knew it was really bad for boys to look at a naked woman before going out and playing basketball or whatever sport it was. They fired him. So you're being commonsensical here. I need to let you know that there's an element in the gay movement who would call you homophobic for that. They want 2 bathrooms, and that's the end of it. And
I'm not going to say that there are no elements like that would, because, I've been called transphobic before, even though I don't think I'm transphobic. I'm accepting of trans people. I just generally don't like the fringe that is really on the SJW side, and I'm not entirely anti-SJW. There's just a few elements of that get perceived as SJW anyway that I don't like, and I think most people are against that. And so, but yeah, it's so returning to the issue at point here. When it comes to things, yeah, I think that there needs to be regardless of whether it's a 3rd bathroom or whether it's a bathrooms are combined down into one, because this actually reminds me kind of when I was getting changed the other day, and I really hate getting changed in front of other people, and because when you're in a changing room and there's a whole lot of guys around, I just find that really awkward to get changed in front of a whole lot of other guys. So, that's why I like the fact that there were cubicles that I could go into to get changed in there. And would actually advocate for that, because I like having my own private space when I get changed. But yeah. But I think that when it comes to these people that are, I think they're more of a fringe rather than a majority. So when it comes to these people advocating for, I should be able to get changed in the boys' locker room, even though I'm physically female, I feel like my gender is a boy, so I should be able to get changed in the boys' locker room. And I think that there needs to be a compromise here when it comes to things like either the boys' locker room needs to have cubicles, or you have a unisex locker room, or if they're not willing to go that way, then she should be getting changed in the girls' locker room. And as I said, there needs to be compromise, but I don't think that she is on the majority of people. I think she might be a small but vocal minority.
I think the small but vocal minority, I agree, it's a fringe. We've mentioned Milo Yiannopoulos a couple of times. He would say, yeah, I don't agree with all that crazy stuff. But it is unfortunately in this case, because of that pendulum, the weight of the pendulum, in Marxist theory, it's called the dialectic. The pendulum never stops in the middle, as you say, where there's sort of a compromise, and it just swings the other way. And so that vocal fringe becomes the mainstream. So you'll see, for instance, Pope Francis recently, I mentioned this in my article, he was approached by a gay man, and the gay man said, well, what do you think God thinks of me? Pope Francis said, here's the quote. He said, God made you like this and loves you like this, and it doesn't matter. But it does. Now, God made him, period. He didn't make him like anything. God didn't make bank robbers. And people get mad when I compare gay people to drug addicts or bank robbers. But please, let's just
we'll keep it.
Go with some sort of analogy here. Yeah, God didn't make anyone anything. I mean, we do agree, remember, that there's transgender and transsexual, and there's a social construct involved. So I say we take God out of it. And any religion, not just Christian, I'm not just going to pound the drum for Christianity here. Any religion is asking you to raise yourself up, not for you to join and make the religion what you want it to be. All religions, not just Christianity. So the Pope said, God made you like this. I don't believe that. But the crucial part is where he said, God loves you like this. No, God loves him, period. He could go and murder people. God loves him and gives him and that love means he has the chance to come back into the fold. It never means God loves you unconditionally. We have this idea that Jesus preached unconditional love. Well, you can follow the logic here. If it's unconditional, that means you love everyone. And if you love everyone, you don't love anyone. I mean, love, by definition, is conditional, and that goes for God's love as well. So God isn't condemning this guy. The Pope didn't have to say, well, you're going to burn in hell. The Pope is right to soften the views that we've heard in the past and to embrace this gay man who approached him. But to tell him God made you like this, that's a lie. And to say God loves you like this, that's the second lie. The Pope is lying.
Well,
and even if the guy wants to persist in his homosexuality, I'm sure you'd agree that, as I say, any religion, especially Christianity, what it holds out for him is the opportunity to elevate himself. Even if he's still going to sin with his homosexuality, there has to be something in him being a Christian that means he will, throughout his life, elevate, or life is meaningless.
Well, I think that regardless, you can always elevate yourself. Christians, there is no single, I can't say, no one really has the right to say, oh, you're not a Christian, or this person here is not a Christian.
Yep.
And,
right.
I don't have the right to say that as an atheist, and, you don't have the right to say that as a Christian. And I think that when it comes to all these things, like maybe your way of elevating yourself is to give money to the poor. Like Jesus says something about that in the New Testament. He goes ahead and says, "Give your money to the poor." And there's a lot of things that he actually says. He says that it's easier for a camel to get through the eye of the needle than it is for a rich man to get into to enter the kingdom of God. And so
easier, but not impossible. I don't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, it was a Roman, a young Roman nobleman approaches Jesus and asks him, "What do I have to do to get to heaven?" And he tells him, "Give all your money away." So people interpret that as meaning Jesus wanted us to give our money away. But no. For that Roman, his money was his impediment to spiritual oneness with God. Jesus is not telling you to give your money away or me unless we are also 100% focused on money to the exclusion of all else. And there are a lot of people like that. But no, when Jesus said that, and then you gave the second part of it. You said it's easier for a rich man, for a camel to get through the eye of a needle, which, by the way, was the entrance to a city, not a literal needle. Yeah, and it was a small entrance for security reasons. So yeah, it's easier. A camel could get through, but it had to go down on its knees to get, and which camels will do, by the way. Horses won't do that. In any case, it was a very complex analogy, but he doesn't say it's impossible. It's just it's going to be harder for a rich man because, let's face it, most rich people, like this young Roman nobleman, they're not just rich. They're obsessed with being rich, and that's what stands between them and God. So back to this gay guy, the Pope, I mean, he could have said something. He could have, as they say, in that song, "Where never is heard a discouraging word," right? That's Home on the Range. Here, a good old American song. Home on the range. Where never is heard a discouraging word is not God's way. God does provide us with discouraging words. God says, "Hey, stop masturbating." Okay, there's nothing wrong with it, but stop it, right? And God said to me, stop having more than one girlfriend. Now, I never cheated on any girlfriends, but I just went from girlfriend to girlfriend until I settled down and got married. Yeah, and so there's got to be something he can say to this guy besides, "Don't worry about it."
Well,
because that's not, and again, I say that's not any religion that would say that. So why is the Pope saying it?
Well, getting back to what I was saying before is some people will some people argue that Jesus will. Like you argued that it's more about the how money defines a person, and that's right when it comes to that passage. Other people will interpret it as we should be. If you are a rich person, then it's your duty because you've to give money to the poor because. Or to the less fortunate, right? And then there are other Christians that will disregard that entirely. Now, it's hard to say who exactly is elevating themselves here because it's all a very subjective sort of thing. But just say you're a gay person and you're like, okay, I don't want to give up being gay, but I will give all my money to the less fortunate to help them out. Is that really is that any worse? Is that worse or better than someone who goes, I'm not going to give my money to the poor, but I'm not going to be gay. All these, because you do have a lot of conservative Christians saying, well, God hates fags and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
So I'd argue that the people shouting God hates fags and not giving any money to the poor, they're the ones that haven't elevated themselves as much as a gay person going out and giving their money to less fortunate people.
Well, what about this? Now, I already mentioned I got into trouble with some atheists. Here's where I get into trouble with some Christians, because here's what the Pope, I think, should have said to this guy. Forget money, because that's ancillary. This guy, for all we know, was poor, broke, or filthy rich. But the issue at stake is that he's gay. So let's just stick with that. I think this guy, what he should do is become monogamous, like Milo Yiannopoulos. He should give up, because part of the gay lifestyle isn't just that it's same sex. What is gay? Gay means happy. I'm happy. I used to think I was happy, because I mentioned I had many girlfriends. Again, not at the same time, but I would just go from one girl to the other. And I thought, hey, why get married? I'm happy. That's what gay means. And what this meant, for all we know, he is monogamous. But let's say, because we know a lot of gay men are polygamous. They have polyamorous, I guess is the correct term. The Pope should have said, look, you got to do something here. Stop having multiple partners. And now he's giving some positive advice to the guy. You're right. He could say, stop driving over the speed limit in a school zone. There's 100 things he could say. But to the issue of being gay, and again, this is where I get into trouble with some Christians, because I'm willing politically, not spiritually, but politically, I'm willing to make this compromise, just like I am on having the third bathroom. A lot of Christians don't like that idea either, just like some gay people don't like that. They want just 2 bathrooms. I'm willing to say, if you're monogamous and gay, like Milo Yiannopoulos, who's married now, we should assume, we shouldn't judge him, we should assume, he loves one person. He is many strides closer to God now, just for that. He's still sinning, and I'll be the first to admit I still sin, even though I'm happily married and I'm faithful to my wife. I still have other areas where I fall short. We all fall short, Jesus said. And that would at least be a positive message. And we're not hearing it from the Pope. And I'm predicting you're going to see it a lot more in a lot more churches, this openness to the gay agenda on their terms instead of the church's terms.
Well, one thing that I do have to say, though, about that is I think, at least from my standpoint, I think that it's more like there's not as many problems when it comes to a gay person being in many different relationships. There's not as many problems there, at least not from a. I mean, of course, you're more susceptible to STDs than a straight person, but when it comes to a straight person, you're more susceptible to unwanted pregnancy from polygamous relationships. So I think that in a way there's a sort of balancing thing there, and I don't think that it would be right for the Pope to assume, oh, you're gay, that means that you sleep around with a lot of guys. I don't think that's a good thing to assume, and I think that for a lot of people, they ask these figures that that they look up to, like, you know, for me being an atheist, I wouldn't if I looked up to the Pope and then I looked up to I'm just trying to think of someone. Okay, let's say I asked the Pope and Neil deGrasse Tyson their opinion on an issue that's say about being say it was about my sexuality. I asked them an issue about that. I wouldn't put any weight over one or the other. You know, I might hold Neil deGrasse Tyson's view slightly higher because I respect him a bit more than the Pope. But that being said, you know, someone else would hold the Pope's view higher than Neil deGrasse Tyson's view, and so when it comes to that issue, it's, you know, these people are looking up to the Pope, and when you tell them that no, you're sinning, or no, you're doing something wrong, you need to stop, and they don't know how to stop. Like, I was told heaps of times when I was in primary school, oh, you need to stop doing this, that, and the next thing. And I'd be like, okay, I'm going to stop this. The next day, I'd go and do the exact same thing. I can't remember what it was, but I just know that I had a really big issue with trying to stop bad habits that I had. And, you know, it wasn't that I wasn't trying to stop these bad habits. It's just that I just didn't know how to. It was a little more complex than just saying, no, I'm not going to do that. Fortunately, nowadays I've broken out of these. I probably haven't broken out of these bad habits, but I'd like to think that I have. So, yeah, it's, you know, it's...
Well, I besides having sex with lots of women when I was young, I also did drugs. And I can tell you this, there are a lot of ways to deal with addictions, sex addictions and substance addictions. And I don't know what your problem was. You can't remember. It doesn't need to be said because...
It's probably something to do with being annoying.
I know it sounds... Okay. But Jesus saves us. Now, I don't just mean that spiritually. I mean that from an entirely practical perspective. I mean, sure, Buddha's a pretty awesome guy. I've read a lot of that stuff. Confucius and the Indian religions are amazing. It's just not, I don't find much guidance in them, though, I have to say, that they are amazing. And that's a compliment. I really mean that. But Jesus is the only one where you don't come to him and he says, okay, you got to do this, this, and this to reach spiritual enlightenment. He gives it to you free of charge, right up front. And this isn't a sales pitch to you or any of the listeners, but that is a fundamental difference in Christianity as compared to all religions expect you to be better. All religions want you to improve. That's the point of religion.
I just want to...
But Christianity says, yeah.
I just want to bring up something. So this seems to contradict what you were saying earlier about, you know, people trying to raise themselves up.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're saying earlier
no. You should still raise yourself up. You see, imagine if you go to buy a car, well, they want the money up front or they don't give you the car. But your dad, he might say, look, son, you need a car. You're a man now. Here's a car, you can pay me later. And that's how Jesus operates. You still have to pay him. And he's your dad. You might make 3/4 of the payments and then fall by the wayside. And he'll say, well, whatever, he's my son. That might not be good parenting, but you see what I mean? As a father forgives that, whereas a car dealer doesn't. Most other religions, there's a stringent standard for admittance. And then once you're in, you're supposed to improve yourself. And there are some branches of Christianity that do that. But really, what Jesus said, and again, remember, he existed historically, whether you believe he's the Son of God or not. Even Jewish and Roman sources confirm it.
Well, I'd argue against that.
Just come to me. Sorry?
I'd argue against that, but that's not really the topic of this.
That he existed?
Yeah, I would actually.
Oh, no, he existed. He existed. There's no doubt. Remember, the Jews hated Jesus, so I mean they wanted to disprove his existence, and they actually, in trying to disprove his deity, they confirmed that he actually existed. The Jewish sources, and then of course you have Josephus, who actually doesn't deny either. Well, he confirms that he existed.
The problem with Josephus's writing, though, just while we're on this topic, the problem of Josephus's writing is that it was altered by the early Christian church.
Yeah, he was taken captive. Yes.
And
yes. You mean it was altered after he wrote it?
Yes.
Okay, well, back up. I'll give you another arrow in the quiver. This is bad for my argument. But Josephus was taken captive. I believe it was after the temple was sacked by the Romans. And so some Jews argue, well, he was a turncoat. He was like Benedict Arnold. He knew what side his bread was buttered on, and so he wrote disparagingly against his own people. Okay. But the problem with that is he would have earned no favor with the Romans who had taken him captive. They could have killed him, but they kept him alive because he was useful, because he was an influential historian in his day. They kept him alive, and he earned nothing with the Romans. Remember, the Romans aren't Christian yet. They're anti-Christian, just like the Jews are. He earned nothing. He curried no favor with his captors by confirming the stories that we read of the four gospel writers, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. He confirms it. He doesn't believe all of it. He doesn't believe Jesus performed miracles, but he confirms that one way or another, 3 days after he was crucified, all of his followers who should have ran and hid, they all rose up, and that's how Christianity was born. So in a way, he indirectly confirms the resurrection. Now, and again, the Jews hate him for this and say, well, he's not one of us. But the Romans, he gained nothing with the Romans for saying that. Well, so it's sort of bears up under scrutiny.
Well, one of the things that I've heard is that and a lot of scholars agree that that Josephus's writings, there's a word for it, I can't remember what it was, that puts it politely, but in essence it means that they were changed from their original, what they originally said, because in early Christianity there was a lack of evidence for Jesus, and so they needed to say, oh, well, this person confirms that Jesus existed, Josephus, and apart from that, that is one of the only evidences. But the second bit of evidence that you're probably going to bring up is Tacitus, and Tacitus was essentially Tacitus said that there was a group of people calling themselves Christians. He didn't say that. He didn't say anything about Jesus being a real person, because he wasn't alive at the time that Jesus would have been alive, and so essentially, he says that there's a group of people calling themselves Christians, and I don't doubt that there's a group of people calling themselves Christians, because there were a whole lot of religious groups at that time, and but one of the things that is strikingly odd to me is how very little records there are of Jesus.
Well, he was a condemned man, and Christians thereafter were hated.
But you'd think that
they were hated everywhere they went.
You'd think that at the very least the Romans would have kept a record of, oh, we killed this Yeshua guy on the cross.
Well, yeah. Interestingly, that's an argument. That's an argument used by Holocaust deniers. They say, where's the list of all the... Because the Nazis kept meticulous records. I mean, you're right to point this out. Romans, if they did anything right, they kept records of everything. Every brick that went into every roadway, they kept track of everything. It's amazing. They find records from an old gold mine, and they know today how much gold was pulled out of a gold mine. I mean, to the ounce. So yeah, the Romans, like all great empires, the Romans were good at keeping records. But yeah, it's the same with the Holocaust deniers. They say, well, if the Nazis took time to tattoo a serial number onto a Jew's arm before gassing them, where's the record of all this? And the answer in both cases is, well, records are destroyed. I mean, the ravages of World War II, and then to go back to Roman times, Rome would be sacked later by the Visigoths, and then we have the ravages of time itself. But I think there's as much, if not more, evidence for just the existence of Jesus, never mind his divinity, as there is for, like, say, Alexander the Great. I mean, that's a parallel drawn quite a bit. In Jesus' case, we know the 4 Gospels were written before the temple was destroyed, except for John. We think John may have been written later. So that's within 30 or 40 years, really. In the case of Alexander the Great, we're looking at 300 years. Now, there's physical evidence. There's still the odd statue of Alexander the Great. But the accounts of his life, we know how he was born and raised, and all of that was written 300 years after the fact. So you have to give some leeway to the fact that we're dealing with ancient history here. So we're not going to know as much about Alexander the Great or Jesus as we know about, say, Napoleon. By the way, they have Napoleon's report cards from public school in Paris. Those still exist. Those survived. But yeah, I think you have to give him, Nick. You got to give Jesus the same credence the Muslims give him, and that's that he was a great man, not the Son of God. I would disagree with you, but I'll grant you that. And he did exist, and he was a great man. I mean, look at the Muslims. We've discussed the Jews and the Romans. Why would the Muslims confirm that Jesus existed?
Well, Jesus is a central point to the Muslim. Like, when it comes to the Muslims, or when it comes to Islam, Muhammad had actually studied a lot of scripture from different religions, and that's why there's so many parallels between Islam and Christianity. There's the difference between Islam and Christianity is simply that Muhammad was I think it's more of Jesus wasn't the son of God, but instead he was a prophet sent by God.
Yeah.
And then
that's what he says.
And then Muhammad was essentially the person that was supposed to be the Messiah or something like that, to give the final word. Who is the final Jesus in Christianity is the there have been no more prophets since then, unless you're in some weird cult. And you're right, and the Muslims disagreed. They no, Jesus was just another prophet, not the final Messiah prophet. They give that mantle to Muhammad. Yeah.
But now, can I ask you something on all this? Because I'm certainly familiar with this argument that not only was Jesus not the Son of God, but he didn't even exist. Then, because there are other examples in my article, why is the gay academic world trying to say he was gay? I mean, if he never existed, then he wasn't gay or straight. He's fictional.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like saying, well, yeah, Sherlock Holmes was gay. I mean, well, so is Mickey Mouse then. I mean, fine. These are just made up characters. So you have to ask yourself, let's give you that he was just made up. Why are so many, and in my article, I only mentioned 4 of them. There are many, many more. I only mentioned articles that I thought had some sort of academic credence. There's so much peripheral stuff out there. There are books, websites to gay Jesus. It's just amazing. So I really have to wonder, why do gay people want a gay Jesus? I mean, first of all, most gay people don't even want to come to church. Why do they want Jesus to be gay?
I think I think when it comes to there is a culture of meme culture, and a lot of people don't realize what meme culture is. So
you mentioned that earlier. Sure.
Yeah. So are you familiar with the book? I think it's 1976 maybe, or 1978. It was written in the 1970s by Richard Dawkins. It's called The Selfish Gene. Have you heard of that book?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay. So in that book, he coins the term meme, and he basically says that memes are like genes, except it's more an idea that propagates through society, and the best memes live on. And gay Jesus, I don't know how serious it is universally, but I do know that it is very much a sort of meme that people say. Even people that don't believe in Jesus say, "Oh, Jesus was gay because he hung out with dudes and hookers." And regardless of whether he actually existed, people are saying that because it's a meme. And just like people say, just like Christian Sonic is a meme. And I don't think that anyone that propagates Christian Sonic is actually advocating for us to all say that Sonic is the new Messiah. Of course he's not. Maybe a few fringe people are saying that, but most people know that it's a meme. Most people make fun of the meme. And one day it will probably be a dead meme. But
I have to admit, before I started this, I was thinking exactly what you're thinking. I was researching a different article. Let me just say that.
But I think, and someone in the chat just said Raptor Jesus, and so and so it's really down to, I think it's mostly down to meme culture. And people interpret things in different ways. One person will interpret Jesus as being completely straight. Another person might interpret him as being gay. And when it comes to the actual more spiritual side of things, when it comes to people who actually believe in Jesus and are saying, "Look, I believe in Jesus, but I think that he's gay," it's probably more down to them wanting to have someone to look up to and identify with, because one of the things about God, and one of the things about God is that a lot of people say, "Oh, we're made in His image," but I think the more true thing about God is that God is made in your image. So when it comes to a personal God, he's more of a reflection of that person and that person's morals, that person's ideas. So when it comes to someone that's gay, they will see God as, a lot of them will see God as being this person that is tolerant of gays, and some people may go as far to say God himself was gay. Like, I've seen this thing by Ricky Gervais where on the thing of Noah, where he jokes about God being gay. And there's probably people that say, "Oh yeah, God's definitely gay. That's why he hates homosexuals," right? Even though you'd disagree that he hates homosexuals, but some people think that he hates homosexuals. Anyway, keeping back on track, the idea is just that you have an idea of what God is, and that's probably very reflective of your character, of what you believe, your ideals. Another person will have a different idea of what God is, and that will be very reflective of their character, of their ideals. So regardless of whether Jesus existed, because Jesus is very synonymous with God, people will say, "I believe Jesus is gay because," or people will believe that Jesus is gay because it's reflective of their ideals.
Well, let's go with that. So I disagree. I disagree with that, but let's go with it.
Yeah.
What will they achieve with this? Well, we spent quite a bit of time discussing what they'll achieve. They'll achieve. Now, there are probably some well-meaning gay people. I won't deny that, and maybe they're monogamous, which is a step in the right direction. But what's being achieved here? We see it all before us. Is sex education in kindergarten? Is the how-to guide in Teen Vogue for teenage girls to engage in in anal sex because, of course, you can't get pregnant then. See, Teen Vogue knows that the whole birth control thing doesn't always work. It actually has a very low success rate. So, yeah, they're promoting this as a way to avoid teen pregnancy. And this is what will be wrought by the church lowering itself. Now, if you're right and it's all just made up, well, one way or another, this made-up religion has served us. And I would cite the steam engine, electricity, and supersonic flight as examples of, Christian success that we didn't see from the Buddhists or the Hindus. So one way or another, it has worked. And we really have to ask ourselves, even if it's all just a construct, do we want to change this construct so drastically in ways we don't need to imagine? We don't need to hypothesize. We already see it. As I said, sex ed in kindergarten and transgendered kids taking hormonal therapy, which you agreed is insane at the age of 4. I don't see any other upside. Now, here's the one upside I will admit. If it brought gay people to church, they can, I said, I'll give them a ride. I'll bring them in. I'll introduce them to people. They can even stand there as a couple. I've said on occasion, I would, of course, hire gay people and rent them an apartment. This used to be a problem for gay people. That's why I said there was a time when the gay movement had something positive to achieve, which was acceptance. I even said I would bake a gay wedding cake. If I was running a bakery, I have to admit, I'm so selfish. I wouldn't let my spiritual morals get in the way. I'd tell my staff, yep, bake them a cake, because I'm just greedy. It'll put bread on the table for my family. It's just a practical calculation for me. So what else would they want? Well, by going for gay Jesus, they're going to promote and supplement and advance all of these other things. So there I am. I'll hire them to work in my bakery. I'll rent them the apartment above my bakery, and I'll bake them the gay wedding cake. But it's not enough. They need to teach my kids, not just that this happens and this is okay, but here's how you do it, kids. And I think that's where we can agree. This, even if it's made up, this doesn't have a basis of morality, because even atheists believe in morality. There's no moral basis to justify any of this.
Well, I think that when it comes to gay Jesus, it's it's more of an idea, and I don't think that that it'll be easily resolved, and maybe it'll be a thing that maybe it'll be something that doesn't actually ever die out. It may be an idea that actually lasts longer than Christianity. Now, I know that Christianity will probably last a long time, probably until the end of humanity, but I think that when it comes to the idea of gay Jesus, it will be because there are some arguments for gay Jesus now, and essentially what it comes down to is you don't have to believe that Jesus is gay, and you don't believe that Jesus is gay. Mm-hmm. For me, I don't believe that Jesus exists, but I'm not going to. If someone wants to believe that Jesus is gay, they can, and even if they're atheists, like I know some gay people that are atheists, and they don't believe, they used to believe that Jesus was an actual person, but I actually showed them how little evidence there is for Jesus's for Jesus existing. So now they're actually now they're actually more of a they're more of a mythicist rather than someone that believes, okay, Jesus is a real person. And so even then they still say, oh, Jesus is gay, but it's more in a joking manner. They don't actually believe that Jesus was a real person, and it's more of a joke. And I think that's the way this gay Jesus is going to mostly continue. Even if it gets taught in academia, it's among the people like you and I and people that believe that Jesus, people that don't think too much of the details of the Bible, I think that it's mostly going to remain as a joke. It's mostly going to remain as what was he doing with these 12 men, kind of, why was it 12 men, sort of thing. And I think that it's not going to evolve too much past that. Now it may evolve to be that people are saying, oh yeah, Jesus was definitely gay. This is what happened. It says it in the Bible. But I think that's a very small minority.
Well, I hope you're right. But in my article, I give the academic examples, and then I segue that into the popular culture. I think the movement is stronger than you think. But I would say this. Let's say one of my kids took one of these classes, these actual academic credit college course classes. And what if they took the class and wrote, you usually write 2 or 3 papers when you take a university class. And what if they wrote papers that disagreed, that they listened intently and read all the course material and then dealt with it critically and said, no, there's no way. Let me ask you, do you think they'd get a passing grade? Well, they probably get a passing grade, but would they get a deserving grade if they wrote a good, solid paper that disagreed with the professor? And I tend to think not. I tend to think they would be, there'd be some prejudice shown against them, as indeed we already see in colleges, where Christians who believe in family values are often given poor grades.
I want to offer my own objection to that. As someone who has actually written a paper against, and you can actually find it online. This was about 4 years ago. I wrote a paper on AI, and the material that were given about AI, I disagreed with. You see, I disagreed with the premise that if we keep on developing AI, it will kill us all. And I provided a whole lot of evidence, and what I thought was evidence for AI not wanting to kill us all, because we usually get this idea from movies, because we haven't developed an AI that might want to kill us all yet. But yeah, I can't remember what grade that I got, but it was definitely a passing grade. And so yeah, because your professor wasn't vested in that theory of AI as intimately as a gay professor would be invested in his theory of gay Jesus. I mean, if I write a paper that was tantamount to what you wrote, debunking, in other words, what the professor said, if I wrote that, or one of my kids wrote it for one of these gay professors, I'm attacking that person's being, or what that person thinks is his being. And I think that's why we do see a lot of discrimination. It's a good example. You're absolutely right. You can challenge any good professor. You can challenge him or her. I think it's a little different when it comes to the radical gay agenda, though. But I think when it comes to this, there is a sort of I wouldn't call it a fail-safe, but it's more of a precaution in academia to try and catch things like this when someone is being discriminated unfairly against. And that is usually when someone writes something and they're being discriminated against, and this might come in because someone might have written a thing, or maybe pissed the teacher off for some reason. They can actually get it reviewed by outside people, and this is done all the time, even if there isn't any sort of discrimination on the part of the professor, because it needs to be reviewed. I can't remember the word for it that it is, but essentially it gets reviewed by a whole lot of people more than one person, they go, okay, yeah, this is a passing grade, and if they feel like it's unfairly judged, they'll say, no, you either had too much favor towards this person or not enough favor towards them, and then they'll give a different grade, and that is kind of something to catch instances where that might happen. I just also want to add, this person made
There is. You're right. There is a mechanism in academia to deal with that. There is. I'll grant you that. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so, and this is a really good point. Cody says, straight white people have depicted Jesus as straight white. Is gays depicting Jesus as themselves any different?
Yeah, on that, so that's two things, straight and white. And I teach a Bible class. I volunteer at my church. And I have, a lot of people think Texas is like all white. Texas is more diverse than where I came from in Canada, British Columbia. So I have a diverse ethnic makeup of my students. And they're always asking me about that. They'll ask me 1 week and wait 2 weeks and ask me again, what color was Jesus? And my answer is always the same. He was original. He wasn't black or white, or he was original. And anthropologists bear this out, that see a lot of the Jews today are not Semitic. The Ashkenazi are European. They're more Caucasian than Semitic. But it looks like the Semitic people are sort of the original. They're not, they haven't branched off. They're that kind of, the Semitic people of the Middle East are kind of the dream of the SJWs that will all become this sort of cappuccino colored, tanned white, dark-haired, blue and brown-eyed people. And that's what it appears Jesus was, that he wasn't white. So to the second point, that he was straight, well, I do want to reiterate what I said at the onset. He wasn't gay. He certainly wasn't gay. But he wasn't straight either, because he didn't have sex. And it wasn't because he was asexual. It's because, and you're not going to be surprised that I say this, because he was the Son of God, and he was above all that. And that seems to be borne out historically as well as biblically. But yeah, just to answer the commenter, I don't believe Jesus was white. And I guess he was straight insofar as he wasn't gay. But is that straight? I mean, he was neither. He was above it. So that'd be my answer. And by the way, I have to get going soon. Yeah. I don't mean to cut things short.
There is a question that I
have to get my daughter. Sure.
And this is just more of a joke question than anything serious. But did Jesus have a dick?
Oh, sure. He had everything. He was 100% human. He went to the bathroom. He ate food. He hungered. He thirsted. When he fasted for 40 days in the desert, he suffered every bit as much as you or I would if we fasted.
He
was not. He was capable, if he wanted. He was capable of. I mean, when he was fasting, he could have just miraculously told his body, "You're full. I just ate a chicken dinner." Even if he didn't, he could have just made his body miraculously fill itself with nutrients, as it says in the Bible. God can make stones into people if he wants. But he can do whatever he wants. But he didn't do that. He was 100% human, to answer your question. Yeah.
Wouldn't wouldn't a human die if they fasted for 40 days and 40 nights though?
Oh no. There are many examples. There's a good book that all the hippies in the 1960s.
It sounds like
what?
breatharianism. It just sounds like breatharianism.
No, it's fasting. There's a book called Back to Eden, and I think the author is Christian. It's a health food book from the 60s and 70s. And I'm sorry, I forget the author's name, but I grew up, by the way, I didn't grow up Christian. A lot of people think you follow the religion you're born into. I was born into communism. I was born amongst atheists and communists. And a lot of my parents, they had this book called Back to Eden. And it was a book about diet. you can go back to what God intended. And I believe it was written by a Christian. But in it, he describes fasting for 30, 40, and I believe 50 days. It is possible, and there are many health benefits to fasting. I admit I've only ever been able to go a few days. It's supposed to get easier after the 4th or 5th day. I've never reached that. But yeah, it is totally possible. You need to keep drinking fluids.
Isn't fasting isn't that where you go completely without food?
Correct. No food, and not even juice or tea, just water. Okay. And a lot of people who fast will wean themselves off. They'll drink juice for a few days, then they'll just go to straight water. There are some people who go as far as to avoid water, but as you know, you can only go 2 or 3 days without water. But they'll do that to purge themselves of whatever impurities they believe are held within.
Yeah,
but fasting is, we know that's totally possible.
I just wouldn't recommend it for anyone because, like, for me, I haven't really heard that great things about fasting, and I quite often, when making videos, when I'm getting hungry, I'll often drink a lot of water, and then I'll realize, look, I'm drinking too much water. I need to have something to eat. It's not really fasting, but it's more of when I realize that I'm having too much to drink, I'll realize that, look, I'm actually hungry. I've got to have something to eat. But it's really. I wouldn't recommend anyone do it because we need energy, and sure, it may help you lose a bit of weight, but if you're fasting for 30 days, that would be very dangerous, and people have done breatharian experiments where they didn't go without water or food, and they got dangerously sick. There's actually been people that have died from breatharianism.
I don't doubt that. Yeah.
And so I think that it is dangerous to recommend fasting for an extended period of time. There are people that do go without food for a couple of days, and sometimes they go without food for a couple of days because they're just simply not hungry, or sometimes they may be too lazy to get up and get food. I know a few people like that, but it's so
I would say it's dangerous if you're doing something like driving heavy machinery, or even just driving to work. It could be very dangerous. You could become, when you're fasting, you could become lightheaded and pass out at any time, really. People get good at it. I admit I'm not one of them that's good at it, but fasting has many benefits. But yeah, if you're doing anything where you could hit your head or run into someone, you probably shouldn't be fasting.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But
like flying an airplane, for instance.
Yeah. But to wrap this up, I just want to give my final thoughts on this whole gay Jesus thing. I think, and I've probably said this multiple times, I think that it's down to what people want to believe. If you want to believe that Jesus was gay, then that's on the person that wants to believe that Jesus was gay. I don't think that they should force a gay Jesus on you, for example. You don't have to believe that Jesus was gay. I don't have to believe that Jesus existed, and so yeah, they can believe that Jesus was gay, especially if it helps with them dealing with people saying, Jesus hates fags or something like that. They can a bit of solace for them might be, well, Jesus was gay, or at least I view Jesus as gay, so I can't be hated. Jesus wouldn't hate a gay person, and it might help them deal with that kind of thing, because there are still places where people discriminate against gays in that way by saying, well, God hates gays and stuff like that. So that's my opinion on that.
Well, here you might agree with this. Now, you might not agree with me. I'm opposed to abortion. I believe life begins at conception, and there's certainly life in a womb by the 3rd trimester, which is you can legally get an abortion pretty much anywhere in America or Canada, and I'm sure in New Zealand and Australia, almost all the way through the 3rd trimester. So, but I'm still allowed to believe in this free country. I'm still allowed to believe what I believe, that life begins at conception and that an abortion is murder. I'm allowed to believe that. Great. But I have to pay. I have to pay through my taxes for subsidies to the abortion industry. So to draw that analogy here, you and I would probably agree, morally, ethically, philosophically, and maybe even spiritually, even though you're an atheist, that, hey, people can believe what they want. The problem is when I have to pay for it through my taxes to a school system that's going to teach it to my kids. And that, as I say, is a perfect parallel, I believe. And maybe you'd even agree that that's a perfect parallel to what we see already with the abortion movement and what I think we're going to see with a gay Jesus. I'll still be allowed to say, no, he's not gay. I'll never be reprimanded. I won't even get kicked off Twitter like Milo Yiannopoulos was for saying Jesus was not gay. That will not be counted as hate speech. But I'll be forced, as I say, through the public school system and God knows any other ways that we've discussed, I'll be forced to subsidize this. And that's where I think this will be a problem for future generations. But I want to, in closing, say I really enjoyed speaking with you, and I'm surprised how much we agreed on. It's just an amazing discussion here.
Yeah, I try and what I try and do in discussions is I try and find at least something that we can agree on. Even people that I really disagree with, there's probably something that we can at least agree on. Like there's one person which I'd probably like to have a debate with, and we pretty much, there's probably only one thing that we agree on, that's about the hijab. But even then I had a look, and I think that he disagrees with me on the hijab very slightly. So yeah, but I do try and find something to agree with people on. And yeah, I do thank you for being polite and respectful to me, at least. I don't know what other people would think.
No. Yeah, but believe me, it was no effort on my part. It just seemed to come naturally. Very good discussion. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. But yeah. And I just want to add to your tax things. Like, I honestly don't agree a lot in taxes. I think that taxes should be, especially in America, you spend most of your taxes on the military, and I just don't agree with that. So maybe it would be nice.
Oh, yeah, that's a, yeah.
But maybe it would be nice
a great
if
example.
People paying taxes could, you know, say, oh, I'd like my taxes to go more towards this, and maybe say, oh, okay, I want, and obviously you wouldn't be allowed to, if you make more, you wouldn't be allowed to say, oh, I want all my taxes to go towards me or something like that. You know, I don't think that should be allowed, but I think it should be that it's more of a democratic tax system where, and that, I think that would be a good idea, just my opinion.
There was such a movement back in the 70s. I forget, they withheld a portion of their taxes calculated was going towards nuclear weapons. They said, I'm willing to pay for a military. I'm a pacifist, but I know we need a military, and I'm willing to pay it. And they would deduct that and basically invite an audit from the tax man. Say, fine, come and audit me. I'll see you in court. Here in America and Canada, the government wisely left those people alone. They said, fine, because it wasn't a big amount of money. I mean, even though nuclear weapons are expensive, they're really a small portion of the overall military budget. But wow, great example to end off on. Yeah, I mean, there you go. Yeah, you're allowed to say, I don't think we should bomb Syria. Yeah, you can say that all you want, but you're going to help pay for it, sucker. So that's the problem we face with this gay agenda. I believe.
I don't think that tax money is being used to fund any sort of gay agenda. As you pointed out right at the start of the video, or at the start of the stream, You pointed out that, you know, politicians kind of wait for the rest of society, or they kind of wait for society to make a push rather than them making the push themselves. And so, you know, you could say, oh, there's a gay agenda to get gay marriage legalized, and in that respect, I'd say that there was kind of an agenda to get gay marriage legalized, but that was more of a socially driven agenda rather than a government driven agenda. And I don't think that and I guess there may be a few agendas, maybe to increase representation in TV shows and stuff like that. But that's more of a social agenda, and it's not really enforced by any government, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, you're right. And I don't pay for those shows. My taxes don't go towards them. And you're right. I'm currently not being forced to pay for Gay Jesus, but I am paying to the public school system for the whole gay agenda that starts in kindergarten. And we agreed on that. We agreed that's gone overboard there.
But
you're right though. At this point, we're not paying for the Gay Jesus.
I don't think that would. I don't think that would be a gay agenda. I think that's more of people trying to just, educate kids about what is, trying to educate a kid who may not know about sex. And sometimes kids are exploited at a young age, and so it's good to warn them away. And I don't think it's anything about... I don't think it's anything to do with a gay agenda. I think it's just people trying to protect their kids.
Oh.
And so yeah, it's...
Oh, darn.
Sorry. Are you still there? I gotta...
Okay,
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, I skipped out there. I apologize.
Yeah.
I got a phone call coming on my end. Sorry about that.
Okay.
But you're right that there's certainly an educational component. I just think it's crossed over now. As I say, the pendulum has swung from education to promotion, and that's where again I think we agreed on that a few times.
I don't think we agreed on that. I think it's more of I don't think that it is promoting. I don't think that it's that people are promoting. Or I don't think the school system at least is promoting. To be gay. I think they're encouraging, if you are gay, be happy as yourself. But I don't think it's saying, you've got to be gay, because just like gay people don't have to be straight people don't have to be gay. Dean Weiss is asking, is Mischa Canadian? He's got a pretty thick accent.
Yeah, and not just Canadian, but from Saskatchewan, which is in the very center of Canada. So I'm as Canadian as you can get.
And Turquoise Laura said for a second, it's about supporting people with supporting children, whether they're gay or not. So yeah. I think. Yeah,
I would support. I would agree to support kids who think they're gay, and I would even admit probably some of them could be gay. I really have reluctance to believe though that we need to reach all kids in school just to help, say, 1 or 2% of them, if that is indeed the percentage we're dealing with.
I think it's more about 10.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I think it's more like 10% of people are gay. And
wouldn't that be like teaching?
I'm just going to say,
sorry, go ahead.
What Jesus said, ask about Peter Popoff, and we actually discussed this beforehand, and you said that, no, you're not related. Yeah.
Did you want me to quickly explain that?
If you want to.
What the name... Yeah, the name Popoff in Russian is a very common name. It's the second or third most common name in Russia, because in old times, there was no such thing as a last name. You would take your father's name.
Yeah.
So if your son, your name is Nick, your son would be Anthony Nikoloff. And it was very difficult to trace family trees. The invention of the surname or the last name is fairly recent. It's only a few centuries old. So the name Popoff came from orphans. Orphans who had no father, so their father was the Pope. And it was kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing because, of course, Russians didn't follow the Pope. They followed the Russian Orthodox Church. But it was the name commonly given to orphans. So it's a very common name back in Russia.
Yeah. So anyway, you're saying something before I interrupted. If you want to just finish that.
Oh, well, I guess I would just say if anyone wants to read my article, they can reach you and I'll send it. It's only available in PDF. It's not posted online.
Okay.
The editor sells this magazine. I'll send it to anyone, and they can decide if I'm a homophobe or if I make some valid points for themselves. Happy to share it for free.
Yeah. And you said that you've got to go soon, didn't you?
Yeah, my daughter's getting home on the school bus soon. I got to make sure I'm just across the street here.
Okay. I'll let you go and I'll have a quick discussion with the people in the chat. People can ask me questions and yeah. Cause,
yeah, and I'll be active in the comments section if anyone wants to ask me anything, or if you want to send anything my way by email. Happy to answer any questions.
Yep. Okay. Well, it was nice having you on. It was an interesting discussion. Hopefully I changed your mind a bit about a few ideas. I don't know if I did or not.
No, I think we had a very good discussion. And so there's no way of knowing instantly. It's not like pouring water into a cup. We can't measure it quantitatively. But the more you and I speak, and the more we speak with people openly, that by the way, is what Jesus called logos. You know, John, in the Gospel of St. John, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. Well, that word in Greek is logos, and that's where we get all of the terms with that in it, like logical and biological. It means communicating the truth. So the logos here, I hope, has been brought to the fore. And again, there's no way of measuring it. We'll probably have a better sense of how we've impressed ourselves upon each other in the days to come as we reflect on this conversation, which I'll certainly be doing.
Yeah. Yeah, and hopefully it has impacted you in some way. One thing that I do...
certainly.
One issue that I do have to just bring up, I just got to... It is a bit of a complaint about you, but I was talking with genetically modified skeptic a few days ago, and apparently you have been...
yes, I sent... Yep.
Yeah, apparently you've been going around quite a few YouTubers, like just asking them about... asking them to like come on their shows. I do find that to be a...
Yes.
I did not know about this when I scheduled our meeting, but I think that it would be a good idea if you didn't do that because a lot of people do get a sort of negative opinion on people that do that, you know?
That's done now. What happened was the original interview I did, and the only interview I had done at that point, was on the Non Sequitur show, and they hung up on me saying I'm homophobic. And by the way, phobia means fear. I mean, I certainly don't hate gay people, and I'm certainly not fearful of them. So the whole term homophobic is very wrought with non-descriptiveness, if you will. But in any case, yes, I from the Non Sequitur show, as you know, down the right-hand side, it has related sites or sites. And I clicked on all those just to let them know, hey, I got hung up on. Here's the interview, and you can make your own mind up. And yeah, that's done now. I reached you that way as well, and I think that was fair game. Some people said I was spamming them, but I sent maybe 2 emails, I think, to GMO Skeptic, maybe 3. I don't recall, but spamming to me is when you get like tens or hundreds of emails, and it's done now. I reached everyone that stemmed from the non sequitur site. Everyone who was listed as a related site, I've reached all of them. And again, that's how I came in contact with you.
I mean, to a lot of people, that seems like begging to come on, to like a show. So I just advise in the future not to do that.
The other thing with spamming is you have to have something to gain. I don't have a book to sell. I don't even have a website. I don't have my own YouTube channel. I only have a YouTube account so I can comment. And some people said that also about the comment section, that I was spamming the comment section. Well, my response was, well, if you get hung up on and then they keep talking about you for another hour, don't you get to comment in the comment section? And yeah, I make no apologies for having done that. But if I emailed anyone more than twice, then yeah, like GMO Skeptic, if I emailed him 3 times, then I would apologize certainly for that third email. Maybe I was getting a little desperate. I don't recall though. I think it was like 1 or 2 emails. How many did you receive before you and I started communicating?
I think
was it just 1 or 2?
Yeah, I think I responded to the first email that you sent me.
Yeah, and then that was it. And a lot of related sites did the same. Some of them told me, we're not interested, so I'm not going to waste my time and send them a second email. The reason I sent a second email was because 2 days after they hung up on me, the host of the Non Sequitur show, Kyle, went on to Mr. Atheist and talked about me for 1 hour and 20 minutes without me. So again, I sent that out. I said, hey, look, they're talking about me. And again, I think that's fair game if they're going to do that.
Yeah, but I don't think that contacting like everyone to to get a position, because it's very easy to start your own YouTube channel, and if you want to start your own YouTube channel, you'd probably get a lot of people going, okay.
Oh no. See, you misunderstood. I'm purposely not I have nothing to gain. I'm a happy man. I have a family. I make money. I've thought of doing that. I used to have a number of sites and such. I worked in the organic industry for years. I did write a book. I did a number of speaking engagements. I made good money doing that, and it was a lot of fun. But no, on this, I've decided, even a YouTube site where I don't know how much money a person could make, but you do make some revenue from the advertising. No. I have nothing at all to gain. And I purposely didn't want to have my own site. I just contacted some other people. That's how I contacted the Non Sequitur show. I had done an interview with them 4 months ago on Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. I mean, they're atheists, but they had me on for 2 hours to talk about Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. Again, I had nothing to gain. I wasn't selling a single piece of paper or promoting my own website or a YouTube site. I hear what you're saying though. I could do that, but I'm purposely not doing that. I'm at a point in my life where I just wanted to have some good conversations. I really mean that. It's logos, understanding. I'm going to learn as much from people who don't hang up on me as hopefully they'll learn from me. Hopefully.
Well, anyway, I'll let you go, and I'll talk with the chat for a bit, and yeah.
Yeah, please do, and let me know if you have any more questions I can answer.
Okay, if I do think of anything, I'll be sure to
anything
email.
At all.
Yeah.
Sure thing. All right. Well,
all right.
Yeah, all the best to you down there in New Zealand. Thank you very much for your time.
Right. See ya.
Bye.
Bye. What else? All right, I'm just going to switch to this. So, wait, which camera is being used? I need to switch to my property. There we go. There we go. Oh, that's better. Oh, jeez. All right, so I do find that there were a few complaints about me. So if someone wants to complain about me, say somewhere where I was wrong, that's perfectly fine. Let me know where I was wrong. because I probably was wrong a few times. I know that someone was saying that I was homophobic. Someone said that I need to think critically about my ideas. Oh yeah, Radical says, seems it is quite a bit more complex than my taxes pay for Planned Parenthood, and I do agree that it is definitely more complex than that. It is a very fine line to draw. This. Oh yeah, AB Science has mate you had patience. Yeah, I find that giving people enough time to talk about their things, they kind of dig their own grave a bit. If their ideas are bad, they dig their own grave. But yeah, back to the thing about taxes. It is a very complex subject. Obviously. Oh, you didn't hear me? Shit. Was I muted? Shit, if I was muted, fuck. But yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I was saying that when it comes to taxes, it's I can't. Oh, you could hear me? Oh, that's good. I was worried for a second if I had gone a whole discussion without being heard. But yeah, as I was saying, yeah, taxes. I think that I disagree that my taxes. I don't think my taxes should go to war, but I don't. At the same time, other people say, yeah. I think Dean Weiss has a good point. A lot of things taxes pay for, average people don't care about, and it would be horribly unbalanced. So I think that when it comes to that, it's very hard for someone like me to make a decision. It's very hard for someone like him to make an accurate decision. If I say, oh, we shouldn't put taxes towards military, then people would, when it comes to taxes, like for military, it may be that I don't see military as, or I forget to see military as defense budget or something like that, and then holy shit, next minute we get invaded by another country, or someone drops a nuke on us, and it's like, oh fuck, we didn't think of that. But then, that being said, another person might say, oh, I don't want any of my taxes going to welfare, these bloody welfare bludgeons, and then people that are studying, for example, may not get the money to study, so therefore the education of the country goes down, dropping that country into ruin. And yeah, people say that they don't want their taxes spent on the war on drugs. I think that the best way to deal with this is with the democratic system that we currently have, where it's more of a, you elect someone in, and they will make policies about that will often say, oh, your taxes will go towards this. And I do wonder how I sound like a transphobe. Yeah, part of the maps don't have New Zealand on them. We barely have a defense force here anyway, so it's not like if we put any money to war towards the military, it will. It's not like if we take money away from the military that will have any problems. With yeah, so I do wonder how I sounded like a American right winger trans phobe. Like I'd you want some music on? I'll play some guitar while I talk. because I tried to no, I'm just trying to think of how to put this. Like, I tried to say exactly what I thought. You know, when it comes to transsexual people, I don't think that we should be allowing kids that are under 18 to get. It's very hard to play guitar at the same time. But I don't think we should allow kids that are under the age of 18 to get organ transplants or sexual organ transplants. And Rapid X knows the song. But yeah, I don't think that, you know, because under 18 you probably don't have the capacity to be able to make that decision on yourself. Once you're over 18 though, you know, go for it. But yeah, although that's my opinion. Although I think it's perfectly fine for people to be transgender under the age of 18 because, you know, transgender just simply means that you're being a different gender. And he did bring up a good point of what's the line between, like, is hormonal change the difference between transgender or transsexual, or is it a scalpel? And that is a very good question, and that's where the line gets blurred a little. But, you know, if anyone has a good argument, they live their life and what comes. Yeah, I think that when it comes to that, you know, if you're a kid that thinks, oh, I want to wear a dress, go ahead and wear a dress, you know. If you're a kid that, but I don't think that when it comes to irreversible things, like hormonal things, that is reversible. But I could join you on Hangout once you play this. When I refer to the gay agenda, I refer to I don't refer to it in the way that most people refer to it. I refer to it as the... I think it would probably actually be better to use the words gay rights movement. And that's what I mean when I refer to the gay agenda. I'm not referring to a plot to take out humanity or put chemicals in the water or put chemicals in the frogs that turn the fucking water gay. I need to work out a different combination of that. But yeah, I don't think that it's, you know, a plot to just like Agenda 21. You know, there's this, or Agenda 30. Yeah, and I should have probably used gay rights movements instead of the gay agenda. But I was trying to speak on terms that he'd understand and try and, you know, nudge him towards being more on the ground that and yeah, Ed Wolf is completely correct. Gender is not black and white. Gender is on a spectrum, and I should have mentioned that, but that's essentially what I was getting at with the whole gender thing. You know, you can change your gender, or you could be a more feminine person, and it doesn't mean that you have to get your dick chopped off, or, you know, there's times when I have been viewed as gay, and I'm like, no, I'm not gay. It's just society's expectations. Maybe he did. It could have been like that. But I was hoping to sort of change his mind a bit more. Like, maybe my mind has been changed. I don't know. But I try and form my own opinions on things, and I think that when it comes, like, a lot of times when he was talking about something, I tried to say that it was a is probably more of a small fringe part, like when it comes to the girl that wants to get changed in a male changing room. I addressed that there were yeah, and I agree with Grimbeard. A good tactic in interviewing is to use the same terminology as the person you're interviewing. It gets them to open up more. But yeah, no, like when it comes to a person that wants to get that wants to change in, say a girl wants to change in a male changing room, I think that there's multiple ways to go about this, and that it's not a simple question of should they change in the male changing room. It's more of, well, how do we do this in the way that's least invasive to everyone? And I think that unisex things would be a good idea. Unisex changing rooms obviously are a little more complex, and there are great strides being made towards it. Unisex things will benefit me. Oh, and Dean Weiss, I'm going to announce it in a Flat Earth Noose video. I'm going to answer that thing about the November thing, and it'll be more of a Flat Earth Noose video where I'll explain what's going on. Yeah, it could be the eye of the beholder. Like, I was trying to, I think people at the start were right. He was doing a bit of a gish gallop, and oh fuck! What the hell, validation boy? What's this about genocide? Are you trying to say that the gay agenda is genocide? Now, yeah. Oh yeah, just so that no one mutes validation. Just as I say it, his message gets deleted. Don't mute validation boy. I do want to see what his response is about what his idea about this is. Like the whole, he says genocide. I want to know what the fuck he's on about. I'm sure there's context to that, but I have no fucking clue what he's going on about. Is he talking about what he thinks that the gay agenda is? God damn, I said not to time him out. But yeah, I'll... So yeah, what was I saying? Something about... Yeah, like I think that privacy is a good thing to have, and like I like my privacy. I like having my privacy when I get changed, and I like. Well, it's 300 seconds, so hopefully he comes back and we can sort of. Hopefully he answers. I'll leave the stream running for 10 more minutes. He's got 10 minutes to come back and explain what he was trying to explain. If he doesn't, then that's on him. Can I reverse a... No, I can't. Yeah, as Edwolf put it, gay agenda is not... Oh, he did it before I said anything. I should probably change the speed of my stream then to be less than 10 seconds behind. But yeah, as Ed Wolf was saying, gay agenda is just not to be treated as a second-class member of society. And, you know, that's why I say that I can get behind the gay agenda if people want to call it as... You know, if people want to call it the gay agenda, it's like, okay, what's so bad about the gay agenda? That's why I asked him, what is the gay agenda? And he explained how the gay agenda used to be, or at least in his mind, it used to be that the civil rights movements. And, you know, I can agree that that was a noble cause. And he agrees that it was a noble cause, as much as it may surprise people here. But I don't think that the gay agenda was, or I don't think that the gay agenda has ever been about trying to make. I don't think it's been about spreading the big gay at any time. Yeah, it's been twisted to be something wrong. Yeah. Oh, it definitely makes things sound more evil. That's why I think that they shouldn't have called Agenda 21 Agenda 21. Could have been better. As I wait, I'm going to sing a song to just trigger any... It's probably going to sound terrible because I'm not that great at singing, but, you know... it'll trigger some people that, like maybe P. Mars or something. I suppose, yeah, in a way it is like that. But I don't think that there's any agenda universally held by any sort of group. Like that's one of the problems about using terminology such as the gay agenda, and why I think it's not a good idea to use it, because gay agenda makes it sound like all gay people are chemtrail song. But your gay agenda makes it sound like all gays are wanting this thing. And they're not. They don't all want the same thing. Milo Yiannopoulos doesn't want the same thing as every gay person. But yeah, the song. Yeah, I did still use it, but that was mostly to get. That was mostly to sort of speak on the same terms that he was speaking on. But if it did go over some viewers' heads, I do apologize for that. Went to the shop to get some pies. What I see up in the sky. Is it a plane, or is it a bird, or is it Nathan Oakley taking a turd? We got chemtrails on Earth, chemtrails on Venus. They come out of a plane and out of my penis. We got chemtrails on Earth, chemtrails on Venus. They come out of a plane and out of my penis, yeah. They come out of my penis, yeah. Yeah, I can play Red Hot Chili Peppers. Copies right from Conspiracy Cats. Yeah, AB Science made a good point. Can't copyright a standard chord progression. Yeah. I mean, that is a lot of songs. It's standard chord progression. That's why I can't get copy striked by conspiracy cats. So I can't sing, fuck you very... I don't have the sort of thing to go on, but... Nearly had it in time with you. What the... Did I play it terribly? Shit, and I thought I was getting good at that guitar solo. I mean, isn't the worst guitar solo something like, I'm just trying to think of... Yeah, run. I have to leave the greetings from the... Oh, okay, see you around. It's a pain on nylon. Trying to... But if you may want to do a show with various trans folk and talk... Oh yeah, that would be interesting, because I don't know if I've met people that are trans. So I can't say that I have any trans friends, because trans are they're a very small group of people in society compared with everyone else. So yeah, if you want to tell a few trans people to have a discussion with me, or so that we can talk terminology, that would be great, you know. So yeah, that would be something interesting we could do. It's just say it solo. Okay. I could also play this solo. You have too close. Ah, nice. Yeah, like I don't think I'm transphobic in any way. Like as I said in this stream, that when it comes to trans people, you know, if someone I know was trans, like if I had a trans friend, just say they're transsexual, and they said, and I just say that I knew them for 2 years, just say. And then after 2 years, they're like, oh yeah, I'm transsexual. I'd be like, oh, I didn't know that. And I wouldn't think anything of it. You know, will anything happen because they're trans? Probably not. One thing that I do have to do is I have to work out lyrics for a Hoi Hoi. And a chord progression, because I've got to make that a song. And yes, it was Nirvana. Oh, and I also got a request from someone saying I'm playing 4-chord song, so I'll leave on the 4-chord song. It should have ended. It should have ended like 5 minutes ago. That's why I'm ending up the stream very soon. A hoi hoi comes from what's it? Alexander Graham Bell. How is New Zealand on trans rights in general? I think it's pretty good. I haven't seen much media coverage about it. Oh yeah, so for everyone wondering, a hoi hoi comes from the Alexander Graham Bell. So Alexander Graham Bell is a person. I don't know Mississippi Queen, but yeah, he was the inventor of the telephone. So yeah, and Martin James said Jesus probably existed, but there's no reliable information about him. And so yeah, I think it was mostly a discussion that led to other discussions and circled back round to, in the end we finally circled back round to gay Jesus. And like my main question was, like, if someone wants to believe in Jesus, why do it? And that's when he brought up the things that I disagree about with when it comes to with that sort of stuff. So yeah, like when he said, oh, the gay agenda is wanting to take Jesus away, I disagreed with him because I think it's more of a meme, and even straight people spread this meme. Yeah, it might have been the first thing that was said over a telephone call, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, I'll finish up with a song, and then Mr. Burns also says it. I'll be the transphobic dragon. That would be a great song. I walk this lonely road, the only one that I have ever known. Don't know where it goes, but it's on to me. I walk alone. I walk alone, I walk alone. Today's gonna be the day that's gonna bring it back to you. By now you should somehow realize what you gotta do. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now. And that probably sounded terrible. I want to get away, I want to fly away, yeah, yeah, yeah. A bit of ways. But it's Wonderwall. It's Wonderwall. Everyone hates Wonderwall because everyone plays Wonderwall. Although I always sort of trying to avoid playing Wonderwall. I don't even need these on. Why do I So Validation Boy says, before your cucked mods banned me out of fear, I was saying that trannies and gays need to belong in an oven. Trans need to fuck off. And no, they don't. You know, why should... Yeah, I could probably develop a good singing voice. But, you know, why do you hate trans people so much, Validation Boy? You know, are you scared of trans people? I sure the hell ain't. And I don't, as I said, I don't think that there's any sort of trans agenda, except for the only agenda that trans people may have is acceptance of trans people. That's the only thing that I can think that trans people would want to achieve. What else could they possibly achieve? You know, that's why I think that people saying that trans people need to be killed, I think that's just ridiculous. Anyway, thank you, Validation Voy, for showing your stupidity to everyone. Oh yeah, he's busy hiding his own sexuality. With that, oh yeah, and Turquoise Laura made a good point. So I've found that those people are phobic of gay people, are usually gay themselves. And yeah, think a rendition of Message for Validation Boy is in order now. Yeah, I can't remember how it went. I can't remember the how it sounded. Because usually if I have like a headphone on, like to show to like get an idea, it's like I can, okay, and then go fuck you very very much. Yeah, you can if you want, you can time him out. Now he said all he needs to do to make him self seem stupid. But the stream's coming to an end, so whether you do or not, it doesn't really make a difference. But yeah. Anywho. Wrong stream. Anyway. Leave a like and subscribe if you like that stream. Leave a comment what you thought about this discussion. I know that it was a long stream, and at the end there I was kind of just hanging out a bit. But, you know, I'll leave these things up because, you know, why the fuck not? And, you know, Validation Boy showed his ignorance right there at the end, so that's fun for people to do. But, yeah. I will see you in the next stream. Oh, actually, no, next video. Validation Boy, if you want to come on for a stream, you know, email me or some shit like that. You know, I'll have you on, and it won't necessarily be about intangible objects in the sky, so don't worry, we won't have to go there completely. Although I am getting a few, I'm going to be looking at a bit of material about how to measure the distances from starlight, so that should be interesting. But anyway, between you and me, thank you for watching. Good song for Flat Earthers, actually.